Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS speed drift.
The first message that comes to me is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Broadcasting from a shack on a hill in the mossy creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. We are live on the Fringe FM. It is Friday the 13th, March the 13th to be exact. And tonight we welcome back Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archeology, as well as Sean Gonzalez from Ian's Magick Oak YouTube channel. And we're going to get down and dirty with a lot of this stuff tonight. Magick, what we talked about last time he was on here, right? When we talked a lot of Magick with Sean last time, actually. But I also want to talk to you guys about my session with Barbara, too, real quick. And by the way, if you're stricken with panic, I can tell you that I am now looking at these pictures that's in our Discord chat room. If you go to thefringe.fm/chat room, you can join. Night Stalker's dropped in all of the pictures of the grocery store that he works at, where he stocks shelves. That's how he got his name, Night Stalker, by the way. He wants you guys to know that. And they're completely empty. Gone. Like everything's gone. I went to the store yesterday myself, too, and was like, I'm just trying to find a case of Diet Dr. Peppers for my father. He called me when I was there. And I went to every store in town in Sheridan looking for this stuff, and it was a nightmare. The best thing I found in town was simply a small case of those like little bottles of Diet Dr. Pepper, and that was it. That's all I found. So, yeah, things are getting a little crazy. I can say for sure things are getting just a little bit crazy. But that's to be expected, I guess, with what's going on. Real quick, though, before we get started, I do want to thank all of you guys in the Fringe FM chat. I want to thank our sponsors, of course. One of them's here with us, Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archeology. And guess what? Look, if you've had a paranormal experience that's caused you trauma or post-traumatic stress, you can give them a call. You can give her a call at 214-995-3754. Also, ancientlifeoil.com. Best prices for CBD oil right now, bar none. 15 to 20% off, plus an even cheaper subscription. And what you really need in your body is at getthetea.com. Also, UFO Seekers, our partner and best investigators on the planet, and journalists at UFO Seekers on Twitter, youtube.com/UFO Seekers. So if you're not familiar with our guest tonight, we already had one show with him, and it was a blast. We got into a pretty deep discussion. And I want to kind of introduce them again for the new listeners, but I also want to thank all of you guys that have supported. If you can support, because we got to, to get that fancy phone system, that's usually what we pay for. First, the sponsors, they kind of pay for what structures the network, the servers and stuff, the really expensive stuff. And then we take your donations, and then we kind of get good things like the phone system, things like that. All right, so you can go to either lightingthevoid.com, thefringe.fm. You can donate. You can also go to the shop and grab something too. All right, so let's start with Sean. So Sean Gonzalez of Ian's Magick Oak joins us tonight on this station, and his services are to assist people dealing with disturbing paranormal situations. And he says now that he's here to help other psychic and gifted children and folk make sense of the world and the mundane and what they cannot see or affect, but oftentimes what affects them. And he investigates and discusses and learns from other gifted folks who come to his channel sometimes, and he hopes to get into the field to do more research soon and gather evidence for everyone to see and examine for themselves, he says. Barbara Charlton is the owner of Metaphorical Archeology, LLC, also donates her services to assist people in healing negative emotional responses to paranormal or cryptid encounters. And she is a certified EFT practitioner, which is also known as tapping, with a full-time traditional tapping practice. And you can go to facebook.com/metaphorical archaeology. You can go to Ian's channel at youtube.com/user/Ian's Magic Oak, or just do like I did and search Ian's Magic Oak. What's up, Barbara? What's up, Ian? Thanks for coming back on the program.
Hey, thanks for having us back, Joe.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. We got into some pretty deep stuff, man. Some pretty scary stuff. But I wanted to talk about this real quick before we go down this road again, okay? I did my first, I've been putting it off. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this session with Barbara. And I got to tell you, man, I'm ready. I'm almost ready for my next one. But the first one was so intense that I'm not afraid. I know it's going to heal me more. But that was pretty impressive, Barbara, I got to say. It was pretty impressive.
I have to say the same to you, Joe, because you're kind of like Sean. You dig in deep and you don't shy away from anything.
Yeah, she's like, I got to see your face. I'm like, oh, no. No. Like, you see my face. And then I was thinking, so explain to me, like, you remember when you were telling me, like, you were having me tap in certain places and you were repeating back what I was saying, but in a much more simple, much more true, and much more real way. And it just broke me apart. And I really feel like, honestly, if it wasn't for the tapping, I probably could have just been okay. Is it partly because it distracts, or is it the energy spots? Can you explain it a little bit more?
Right. So what we do, we talk through what's going on with you. We get to your first, basically the first point that has an emotional charge to it. And I feed it back to you as we go around and tap at either near the very beginning or end of the major meridians in the body. So technically what they believe happens in the research is while we're tapping on those meridian points, that is sending a signal back to your amygdala, which is your little policeman, your fight or flight guy, saying that even though I'm having this charged emotional moment, everything's okay. And what it does is decouple that emotional response from that charge. And then we back up. If you remember, then we'd have you repeat it. And if you could get through that piece without escalating, we would move on to the next slice of the story. And so we kind of stutter step our way through it.
Would you say I felt like I wasn't very tough? Not that being tough matters, but for some reason I was worried about that. I was like, oh my gosh, I look like such a weakling. And then you would repeat it. I don't like this. It makes me feel weak. And then I was like, like it all just came out, and I was like, what is going on? So, I was impressed, man, really. And I told everybody too about the transitions. I looked up the astrological transit that I had Jupiter and Chiron that night, and it specifically said on Solar Fire that you would be releasing a lot of emotional pain and baggage that goes deep and way back to your childhood, and you'll meet a healer that is kind of unexpectedly, really changes things for you. And it was that, like hours after we did that session. Crazy.
Yeah. Huh? You didn't know that before we talked. You sent it to me later, like, look at this.
Yeah. It was the exact same day, right? It was so trippy.
Yep.
And so, Ian, I guess I can kind of say, man, like I have a jacket now. I've been to the club. Like, I get it. I get it. So how long have you
your bones, Joe?
Yeah. How long have you been doing this, therapy? I guess you could call it healing therapy or whatever.
6 or more months. I don't remember exactly the first date, but I thought it was in August.
Something like that. August, September.
Yeah. And I'd have to go back and look through my notes because I've been I put it up on Facebook because the first 2 had me so rattled because I'm not one of those people who when they're being dragged by the undertow just gives in and says, I'll let the wave take me down. I just keep on plowing forward as hard as I can, and I just keep kicking and kicking. And unfortunately, and Barbara told me, says, we're gonna have to slow you down because you're raking yourself through this too fast, and we're probably missing stuff. But I was hitting so much that you're saying how it made you feel weak. I was a sobbing mess repeatedly.
Yeah, that's what Barbara said. I was like, I bet I look like such a weakling right now. And she's like, dude, I've talked to guys that are bigger looking, tougher looking, which kind of, I was like, wait, there's guys that are bigger looking and tougher looking than me, you know? And she's
there was
like,
no good way out of that.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And you're like, but yeah, and I don't know why that we as men worry about that. We worry about showing emotion so much. It's kind of crazy. I think it's our upbringing, you know?
I never learned to worry about that. If you're afraid of anything, even afraid of being yourself, then you basically are throwing all these roadblocks in the way of being yourself. That's never been my style. I always was trying, if I ever put on a brave face, it's to save someone. And I've done that more than once. And that's some of the stuff that Barbara and I have been working through. In fact, some of the stuff I worked on in the last month, we've had to tap out because let me tell you, it hits you in a wave and you feel like hell afterwards. And if it wasn't for her, some of these things would probably make me put people off for 2 or 3 months until I could mentally compartmentalize this sort of thing. And then she also helps with things that I didn't even realize I'd compartmentalized with the show when I was with you guys before. I hadn't even thought about that. The things that were in the dark in my room that were making me see things for over 30 years. I had put that away. And when it came up, it was like, oh geez, I hadn't thought about this in ages. And because of what I'd done with Barbara, it unleashed it. And right on the show, I'm like, oh my God, I'm gone. And if she wasn't here, I probably would have gotten up, walked out of the room.
I remember that.
Would have gone right into the restroom and laid down right there and just pretended like I was, essence of moss on the wall to try and get back to normal.
Okay. Sorry, I'm still trying to get rid of this mic and it's been stuck to my teeth for like 30 minutes. All right. So why, Barbara, do you think that this specifically helps people with paranormal trauma? Like this is such a good thing for people that have paranormal trauma.
It hit me, as I told you, I've been interested in paranormal stuff since I was a little kid. It hit me that there's no real difference with paranormal trauma as in any kind of regular trauma, except for the fact that the quote mainstream resources that are available won't take those people seriously that have paranormal encounters. So I thought that why not do this and make this available, because there's no one out there helping this group of people who walk around. You hear the stories, I listen to Dogman encounters and, different things. And they said, this happened to me 25 years ago. And you can't exactly walk into your doctor's office and say, I'm having nightmares from the Dogman I ran into. But I thought they're right. So that's why I thought it maps perfectly. Trauma's trauma. Emotional blocks are the same. And then that it just kind of took off from there. And once you helped get the word out, and I met Sean on Brent Thomas's show, and it just started to fly.
So here's the thing. I'm wondering if what you've done, and I know you're very discreet, so you don't want to say any names or anything like that, has, how some people, they have missing time because bad things have happened to them so bad that their brain kind of shuts it out. Does it uncover that stuff too, or does it just heal it without uncovering?
It can. And there's a unique thing they term the generalization effect. And you'll have to forgive me because I'm not a psychologist or a licensed healthcare provider. But when you have a number of events of the same nature, they tend to be stored on the same neural network. And the way that this was explained to us was when the founder of EFT, Gary Craig, went to work with a gentleman at the VA. He lived at the VA. That was going to be where he was till the end of his life. He went in and the guy had like 300 different PTSD type events. He was shot. He watched somebody get their leg blown off. An IED would go off. And what they realized that you worked on a number of them, but you did not have to work on all 300 because you worked on the ones that came up to mind. You trust the body's wisdom to what it's serving up to you, and you clear those. And then out of disuse, that neural network just breaks down, and that they call it the generalization effect. So we can cast a wide net, and you don't necessarily have to work on the detail of each and every little event. So yes, we can kind of scoop some up as long as they're all of the similar nature, if that makes sense.
And you did that with me. That was when I was by the Tower of London, the memories that got unlocked when we did the tap on that.
That was amazing. You should maybe go into that a little bit.
My abilities are usually site-based, but also proximity-based. And when I was 5 in England, we were by the Tower of London, and I'm standing there by the Tower of London, watching people get rowboated in through what I believe it was where they took all of they would bring in the people who would never come out again through the sea entrance. Now there's no connection to the Thames anymore there, but there's still the moat, and it's basically, they called it the condemned entrance. Because if they came out, they would be walked out and then beheaded. Now I didn't know this. This is years later. I found this out, and I'm watching people getting rowboated in because I'm seeing things from the past, and I'm beginning to get really disturbed by it. And my brother says, well, why don't we go over to where Mom is, because she's over here. And I thought, okay, whatever. I don't know what they were looking at. Turned out that they were looking at the little placards that were laid on the cobblestones to commemorate the people who'd been beheaded there. Very morbid, but that's what they had there. Now I didn't know, but as I'm walking there, I get within, I'd say probably about 12 feet. And this is where originally everything went blank. And I stepped, and then all of a sudden my foot doesn't want to maintain itself, and I'm beginning to see things. And originally all I could remember was that I started to seize. I was seeing people getting beheaded, and then 2 old people came and carried me to the river away from this. So that's what originally I remember. Now, what we unlocked was the first step, and then all of a sudden I can see the first person who's being brought out, and he's upset about it. He's mad that he's about to be beheaded. He's angry that it took this long for them to do it, and it took 2 strokes because they didn't use an axe; they used a sword. And the pain searing through the left side of my neck because of the strange angle, because I'm reliving what he was going through. And then finally the finish of the cut, and everything goes blank. And then I'm a girl, maybe 15 years old. She's freaked out. Her brother's just been killed, and remember it. So one after another of these things began to be unlocked. I think it was a total of 8 or 9 of these.
So are you feeling or seeing all this, or both?
Both. From inside, I'm seeing it from inside their perspective. So you can imagine why my brain didn't want to remember this. And I can remember as I'm standing there, both my feet starting to seize, and I'm not able to control my feet. And this old elderly couple comes up to me and says, "Are you all right? Come on, we'll get you some air. We'll take you over to the river." And I remember them lifting me up. And then the next thing I remember, I'm looking down at the area from a cloud that's to the west of us. And I can feel rain on my face, which I still don't understand. And then I can feel the guardrail next to the Thames, and I'm holding on to it real tight. And then they're gone. They're just gone. These people disappeared. An older gentleman, his wife, and they're saying nice things to me. Another set of ghosts or something trying to get me out of the situation. Even now, my face is hot with the memories of it because it's just terrible. It was just
you were only
horrific.
5.
Yeah, and it was bad. And I remember nearly pooping my pants right there because my stomach just was about to evacuate everything. And my brother came and found me, and I was just panting as I'm holding onto the guardrail. And I'd been there so long that the clouds had actually shunted aside, and there was sunlight was now reflecting off the Thames into my face.
Huh.
And it had been completely cloudy when it started. We're talking heavily layered clouds, and this is in the middle of the end of a drought. So that when it starts to rain, it takes a long time for these clouds to decide, okay, we'll move on now and let you see some sunlight.
Now, I have some super insensitive moments, but it's only out of sheer curiosity. And right now, just if we can, just set the emotions aside just for a second, only for intellectual curiosity. What is, when you talk about your head getting cut off, does the body still stay alive after that? Like, did you still see?
That I don't know. I could only, with the first person, all I saw, everything went black. With, this is the horrifying part, with the girl, her head tumbled down and I could see the sky above, and people looking into the basket where her head had gone. The elderly lady that I was inside her head, she was screaming her head off all the way to the point where then she wasn't anymore. And then,
my God,
landed face down. I think it was in a bucket rather than it wasn't in a basket. One of them
that would traumatize anybody. I mean, come on. Like, if you really experienced that, and then there was one gentleman who they lifted his head out to show everybody. And I remember my jaw moving and feeling a pain as because I think the cut was a little high, which nicked the jaw on the left. And yeah, it's just terrible memories. And the head being shown to the crowd, different time periods. The area didn't look exactly the same with each beheading. Sorry, it's just it starts to weigh on me. It's so crazy to think how we were as humans. Like, we really thought back in the day that we were civilized doing that kind of stuff. Like that's insane, man. How far we've come. And then I wonder why. I mean, to either one of you, Barbara, or before we take our break here, why would spirit or the universe or whatever it is give someone a gift to see these types of things, even though we've evolved from them, things like that? Why do you think it's necessary that these things happen?
Well, if I had an answer for that, Joe, we'd be doing a whole different show. But, honestly, I always admire gifts like Sean has had, and I always thought how wonderful it would be.
Yeah.
And after talking this through with him, it's like, it's not all, tacos and fun, kids.
Yeah, right.
It's scary.
It sounds horrid, man. And like, this is like one thing out of thousands of stuff that's happened to you, and still happens to you to this day, right? You still have events. Can you control it more now?
When it comes to that kind of like background information, if it's visual, then I can, by simply closing my eyes or moving away, I can shut it off. But I can give you another example of why, of how I wasn't controlling it when I was near torture devices, which were real torture devices from the Inquisition. Used during the Spanish Inquisition.
I'll tell you what, we got to take our first break here because we're at the halfway mark. But listen, I want to talk about this because I want to talk about this also for Sean's sake, Barbara's sake, and to kind of get you guys to see just how powerful the CFT tapping is for paranormal trauma and get a little bit more depth in this discussion. We'll be right back. I'm Joe Roop. This is Lighting the Void. We're live on the Fringe FM. Stay with us.
Hey, this check is wrong. I worked a holiday and 7 hours of overtime. Not getting paid correctly is a real pain. It could also hurt our boss if our company provides out-of-compliance checks. That's right, construction companies doing business with the government can get fined, or officials of the companies can go to jail if the checks aren't right. It's a law. The Davis-Bacon Act has 30 compliance issues for every check, but there is an easy way for construction companies to be in compliance. EMARS offers Compliant Client, a web-based system that finds and corrects all 30 of the possible out-of-compliance check issues. Users of Compliant Client report an 80% savings in time and money. Running a weekly payroll usually takes about 5 minutes. All 15,000 plus clients of EMARS have never had a legal compliance issue. Plus, they sleep better on check day. Contact EMARS at emarsinc.com or call 480-595-0466.
This is Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archeology. If you've ever had a traumatic paranormal experience, the effects of it may stay with you for years. Who do you talk to? You can't go to conventional help. What we do is we use emotional freedom techniques or tapping to actually neutralize the effects of that event. Maybe when you tell the story now, your heart races and your palms get sweaty. You don't even want to think about it because you don't know how to neutralize that. That's what EFT tapping does. It neutralizes those emotions. The circuit that was recorded on is gone. The energy flows freely and you're free of it. And that's what emotional freedom is all about. We offer this as a pro bono service, but this is something that I offer because no one, it seems, is helping people with these experiences. If you'd like to reach me, it's really easy. My cell phone is 214-995-3754. Please leave a message. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Or you can email me, barb.eft@gmail.com. And EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. Reach out to me. It's confidential. This works. You won't believe the results.
All right, man. This is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
Right, me old Chiners. I know it's an ad break, but before you lot shoot off and make yourself a cup of Rosie Lee or whatever else it is you're going to sling down your Gregory Peck, you need to listen to me babble. If, like me, you found your way to Light in the Void via a downloadable podcast, you might want to take a butcher's at the Fringe FM Wind and Kite. You won't Adam and Eve how many other shows there are or what they rabbit on about. Ancient history, conspiracy, the consciousness, the esoteric, the occult, metaphysics, parapolitical, ufology, technology and spirituality, to name but a few. They got featured hosts like Ryan Gable, Jeremy Scott, Alex Exum, Tim Doyle, Cortana and Gigi, Susanna Ross, the Reverend John Polk, Michael Deacon and J.D. Lewis. You might find yourself listening to the thoughts and theories of the author of The Fish you just finished reading. Or you could pick up the dog and bone, call in and tell everyone your own beliefs or experiences. So do me a favour, before you put on the Ansel or crack open a bottle of vino or roll a joint, go to the Fringe FM and see what you're missing.
From a cave in the depths of your mind, it's Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Hey, I'm J.M. DeBoard, and when I want to talk about dreams, I look up my man Joe Roop and his show, Lighting the Void.
You're listening to Lighting the Void. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. If you would like to text, you can text in at 501-777-5631.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. Oh, look, Barbara Charlton's with us tonight. Sean Gonzalez, Metaphorical Archeology. That's Barbara's jam. And then Ian's Magic Oak is I was going to say Ian's jam. Sean Gonzalez's YouTube channel. You know, during the break, we were talking about your vision, like with the beheadings and stuff. And what were you saying? Because I want to tell the audience about it. You were saying something that it was about. We were talking about the visions of the beheadings, and you just realized something, like it was Lady Jane.
Well, the 15-year-old girl was Lady Jane, one of the beheadings that were done, the Henry VIII's wives, I believe. She was 15. I just looked it up because I was curious to see who it was, because I knew that it was a person who'd been played by Elena Bonham Carter. I'd had that discussion with my roommate before because she had watched it, and I said, that's just like what I saw. And I'd forgotten to look up what it was. But yeah, she was 15 years old when she was beheaded. Her brother went first. when in my vision, it was they had accused them of incest in order to get an excuse to take off her head and his. He went first.
Wow, man.
So
that's insane. That's incredible. And I can't imagine how anybody could heal from that. Now, do you feel, I can understand totally why you keep going, doing these sessions and going over all of this stuff. It's a lot. Even me thinking about it, it's a lot. So can you say, Sean, that like, how much have you healed? When I say healed, how much have you, explain to me how you have healed first, if you have.
Well, let me give you the contrast. I'm able to talk about this. Before, if I just started talking about it or even mention the Tower of London or the Bloody Tower, even see it, it used to put me into a panic attack. I couldn't talk. I'd be gone. There's no talking to somebody who's gibbering like that. And I just try to find some place to hide until it was over. And that's even watching TV shows. I see the spires of the Tower of London. I'm lost. Just sensing it, and I'm done. But here you can see can totally tell the difference because I can actually talk about what had occurred.
See, that really bothers me because this whole time I've thought, and you know how they tell you in the movies and all this stuff, like when you get your head cut off, the characters, they always say, "Don't worry, you won't feel a thing." But the details that you're telling me about is like, no, there's a lot of pain, a lot of suffering from it.
And the first person, because it took 2 swings, it was extremely painful. But on the second one, they died from the shock of it. But all the others, trust me, they felt plenty. And they kept on feeling plenty. The last one was a woman who'd been declared a witch, and she could feel herself suffocating.
My God. Barbara, when you hear this kind of stuff, how do you keep your cool and still do what you do? Like, how do you not break apart sometimes being around all of these people's pain and emotions and things that they're going through? Does it affect you in any way?
There are times where something that they're going through will trigger something I had forgotten about, but there's 2 little pieces to it. One is we always tap along with our clients, and it's almost a little bit of an insurance policy. So number one, my client, if they get too caught up in the emotion of it and they forget where they're tapping, they can always look and see where I'm tapping. But also it keeps me from taking on their stuff. And then that's also a little aspect we call borrowed benefits. Like, oh, gee, I forgot I even had to work on that. So thanks for bringing it up. I don't talk about it with them at the moment, but I get to clear it at the same time. So it's kind of insulating.
Where would you say when I did my session that like when you asked me, you said, where do you feel it? And I said, really like big time in my throat. What does that mean to you when I say that?
Okay. So I'm a little bit, I can feel the kinesiology when something's going on, especially once we're working together and we're connected. So when it's in the throat, that's, the 5th chakra, that's your sense of will. That's speaking your truth and having your voice. So if you've been holding something back or you felt you weren't able to articulate something, you weren't allowed for whatever reason, people will feel it in their throat. If it's fear, typically that goes right to the solar plexus, the 3rd chakra, and it can pop up like anywhere. People can store things randomly in their body, but there are some very definite go-tos. The heartache would be right there at the 4th chakra in the heart area, things like that.
Okay. And if you wanted, like, if you had any advice that you could give our audience right now, because there's a lot of people that are in fear, especially if you look around what's happening, because people are kind of in, they're stocking up shelves. There's all these different cancellations. People are really kind of starting to get afraid right now. What would you tell them to do to help?
I would actually, I'm working with a friend of mine to put together a tapping session next week. Just go on Facebook Live or bring everyone together on Zoom, because I really think this virus is not only the fears being engineered around it, but I think it in some way feeds off the fear. So don't give in to that fear if you are having a hard time dealing with it, there's tons of, how to tap. You can get a hold of me. I'll teach you how to tap. I'm more than happy to do that. But to keep that fear from taking root in you. And what we're saying this is really an opportunity we all have to kind of take care of your neighbor. Are you out of paper products? Ask your neighbor, offer your neighbors what you have. Maybe this is another idea or opportunity we all have to reconnect with each other. That nothing will get rid of fear like showing compassion for somebody in your neighborhood.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a long time since that's happened, actually. When I went to town, I met everybody in my neighborhood, like Miss Whitmire, my neighbor TJ. We were all talking up at Walmart, and I was like, this is kind of strange that we're all neighbors, and it feels like it's been years since we've all talked, and I'm from a small place. So you got some valid points there. I'm afraid, and I know this is into the subject here, but maybe Sean, maybe you can explain to us a little better. When people are afraid and they give in to fear in the spiritual realms, in the astral realms, what types of things tend to happen if a lot of people give in to that?
Oh, wow. See, now you're on a big subject. Fear is the fuel for things that really are untoward. It's like candy. It's if you've ever seen the movie Something Wicked This Way Comes, the dark creatures that come from that strange carnival, they suck that misery and find it sweet. They can hear an ulcerating person with pain from a million miles off, and they're attracted to it. And if you give into it long enough, they learn how to hang around and just eat it. And if there's not enough of it, they can goad you into it and continue to prod you along, and then they can store it and allow them to maintain their sense of self and energy for a hell of a lot longer. That's usually when I'm dealing with big manifestations or something that's trying to go after a whole family or is in a house. The first thing we look for is where they're keeping their stash, because once I blow that out, it's much easier to take the guy down because he doesn't have an endless battery to be able to draw on. Basically,
so they use it for a fuel, kind of, right? That's crazy.
You feed them their fear, and they will keep coming. And it, it's like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Don't give in to fear. Fear, if you remember your training, it'll save you. That's one of the first things that I learned was when something tries to make you afraid, you can't let it, because fear is the way that you hand them the reins to the I win button. You can't let them.
Gotcha. So then it would make sense for them to be like, I don't know, causing more of it. Creating more thought forms, getting more of it, so it kind of perpetuates, because mass hysteria would be like a feeding frenzy for those type of spirits. I'm sure they're waiting. They would love that, what's going on right now. And I mean, even the terrestrial radio stations that I listen to here, and these people aren't into the paranormal and into spirituality or anything, but they're still telling everybody, like, look, don't bury your head in the sand, but everybody stay calm. We'll get through this. It's not, people are they're getting this apocalyptic vibe about it. You know what I mean? End time stuff. We are so apt to do that when bad things happen. It's the end times, when it could just be a bad event.
Yeah, it's the nature of humanity to focus on the negative. See, here's a great example. Let's say you go on vacation and you're going to Hawaii or Maui. We'll say you go to Maui and you have this wonderful time there. But when you're there, something happens, something negative happens. Let's say you were in the water and your favorite swimsuit broke, or the bikini or whatever, and you were embarrassed on the sand, and because somebody had to come out and run out with a blanket to cover you, and you were so just mortified about the whole situation, and that's all you remember when you go home. Not the blue waters, not the great food, not the wonderful hotel, not the wonderful service, the wonderful people, the wonderful weather, the only thing you're going to focus on is that one negative thing. And that is unfortunately the human condition. And that's what I find in the metaphysical and paranormal as well. People will focus on that. And a lot of people get into this because they want to have that negative experience, because then that can validate everything, as opposed to trying to find the good the wonderful things that can happen, because there's a good number of them. I don't want to just say that there's terrible things that have happened to me, because I've had thousands of events. I could mention them all. I could lay them out in front of you like dominoes and knock them all down, and you'd be surprised how long that line will go.
Right.
But there's also great ones too, and great paranormal ones that people would think I'm just completely lying about, because we're more inclined to believe the negative than the positive.
Well, I would say this too, like for people that get a little bit frustrated with what they call the woo-woo stuff, especially when things like this are happening, where people are really getting sick, people are really dying, there's really bad things happening. If you want to look at it from a logical point of view, fear does absolutely nothing but make things worse. It's kind of like it's okay to be cautious and prepared, but once you've done everything that you can do, then see who you can help. That's all you can do. There's no point in feeding into the fear. It's kind of like to me, if I got sentenced to prison, what am I going to do about it? Scream and cry, oh, I'm in prison or whatever. I just do the time, but make the best of it and take care of each other, kind of thing. That's the way I look at it. It's like I just can't give into that kind of stuff. But somebody did ask in the chat room, just really quick, what do you think, Joe? Like laughter, sunshine, exercise? Be safe about it. But if you're in a rural area, don't be afraid to go outside and get some sunlight and laugh and watch a movie, and that kind of stuff is going to battle this thing, and it's going to help for sure.
Well, and don't forget one thing we're overlooking. When we go into fight or flight, and really we have two modes. We're either in rest and digest, and everything's hunky-dory, or in some version of fight or flight. When you're in fight or flight, your body conserves resources. It pulls back from your digestive system. It doesn't support the digestive system. It doesn't support the reproductive system. It takes away your executive functioning, and it puts blood out to the fight or the flight. What are you going to have to do? That weakens your immune system. And when that is being triggered 24/7, go get some sunshine. You need to break that cycle, because you're only going to make yourself more susceptible for whatever bug might want to land on you.
Yeah. And I know there's people listening to the show that like, give me something practical here. That's what we're talking about. If I had Daniel Joseph on this show, or if I had Jeff Harmon, or if I had a number of scientists that have been on the show, Dean Radin, you name it, they would all tell you the same stuff. So don't think that we're talking about, love, light, and rainbows, and, nothing's really happening. It's not like that. It's things are happening. This is a bad time, but, life isn't all hunky-dory sometimes, and you just got to deal with what you're given. You got to, what is it, like what Willie Nelson said, you got to play the hand that's given to you or whatever. You got to know when to fold them, that kind of stuff. You just play the hand you're given. That's what you do.
That's Kenny Rogers.
That's right. See? You would think a redneck like me would know that stuff, right? But I don't really listen to old Kenny Rogers or Willie Nelson anymore.
I'm a singer, so I remember them.
It is Kenny Rogers. Yeah, he's got a great beard, by the way. But anyways, so my thing is with you, Sean, I'm just wondering, like, on a day-to-day basis, if what was that? That scared the heck out of me. It made my heart jump. On a day-to-day basis, if you were to wake up in the morning and throughout your day, do you always have some type of event where you are dealing with this kind of stuff? Or does it just trigger every day, or how does this happen to you?
It doesn't trigger unless I get exposed to something that reminds me of the situation. And of course, now there's quite a few less than there used to be. It used to be, I could just watch certain movies or that would set me off. There's one we still have to work on, because it has, oh my God, the Shining, the TV series. Because that actually, wow. It's a portmanteau that I'd have to unpack. We still don't know. We've been working on it for a bit, but mostly because there's so many situations that Danny is in that reminds me of me, right down to his haircut, the clothing he wears, the stuff that he went.
Yeah, that's a little freaky. You might want to tap while you're talking about this.
Okay, sorry.
So you're relating to this character in this movie so much that it's causing triggers to happen in you.
Like him.
Yeah, and there was I could show you the picture of my dad painted of me when I was Danny's age, and it right down to the haircut, just the hair color is different. And so what this fictional character is going through, right down to people tell you, oh, it's not real. What you're seeing is not real. Oh God damn, it's real, man. Sorry for swearing, but it's real. Yeah. And I have had I'm tapping, Barbara, don't worry.
Okay.
And these guys, especially the girl in the room, God.
I'm tapping with you. Keep going.
So this goes through your life, kind of touches things like in your life, huh? Big time.
They never believe.
Want to come back to it?
Yeah, when I got to get this out. They never believe when I tell them these things are real. I have experienced things that would scare you just absolutely out of your skin, and they always tell me the same thing. Oh, it's in your imagination.
It's in your mind. I love that.
It's all in your mind. It's like, are you joking? They were two old people that carried me to a guardrail. They carried me to a guard. I don't even know how they didn't see me. I must have been floating through the air. I could remember not touching the ground. I jumped across a little horse path divide into a very old property in England, and when I leapt across this divide, I was jumping to a completely empty spot. And when I landed, I'm looking at a garden party for people from mixed time periods that suddenly stood up and noticed me. And it freaked me out to this day. It's bad. We tapped on it. So I'm not horrible when I think about that, but remembering what happened, just thinking about what happened to Danny, because we haven't been able to tap out all of the different crazy that is the similarities to my life for this fictional character. It's tremendous. It's really tremendous. And it's nothing to be underestimated, because I actually, all I have to do is see like I said, the pictures of the Tower of London, and it would have set me off before I worked with Barbara. And, oh my gosh, I don't even like going to medieval times, where they do the dinner and tournament, the jousting, because the one in Anaheim, they have real torture devices there from the Spanish Inquisition. And I didn't know they were real. I just thought they were reproductions. And you could go in and look at these things as museum pieces. My mother paid, this was on my 18th birthday. My mother paid for me to be able to go in there and look around while we were waiting for our show to start.
Uh-huh.
And as soon as I walked in, all of a sudden I'm hearing screaming and yelling and the sounds of sizzling and flesh being flogged. And I thought, well, this is a really weird thing to have on a recording in this room.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's odd. So I'm looking at all these different devices. And as I'm getting closer, Jesus, that hurt. Oh, wow. Just felt it right through my hand.
So this
just
stuff,
remembering it.
This kind of stuff is like you're having a moment now just thinking about it, where your things are triggering like pain in you.
Yeah, there was the thing they call the thumb screws. It's nothing compared to what they call the hand cracker. And I got near this thing. I was looking at it, and my friend Dean was about to touch it, and I told him don't. And when I reached out to grab his hand, because his hand was right there on it, all of a sudden it felt like 3 of my fingers in my hand were broken, and it hurt so bad. Like just now, I just felt it again. It's ridiculously painful, and pain radiates right up to my elbow.
If karma is a real thing, well, what could this man do? You both believe in that, by the way, like karma, reincarnation, working something out from your past life?
I absolutely do. Yeah, but I don't think it's a punitive thing. I think we choose it to even out something we've done in the past or what we have to learn.
Well, how would that play into? Just curious, and I'm not saying you guys know the grand answer to this, but it does make me think. If Sean's tapping into this stuff and feeling everybody suffering, that kind of thing, what in the world happened to him in his past life where he would have to do something like this? You know?
That's a really good question. Why did you choose to have all these wonderful gifts, Sean?
I have no idea. If I could tap into my higher self and ask, I don't know, because the only past life I can remember was being a baseball player for the Durham Bulls in North Carolina in 1922. No, 21 when I got out of when got out of the Army after World War I ended, and until 1929 when I died. I was a relief pitcher. I can't remember his name. My son was asking me about that, and I was naming all of the different. What he said, what was this player's position? I could tell him. As I said, oh, he played right field. Oh, he played left field. No, he was second base, and he was freaked out because he was looking at the stuff online, and I was getting it right. That's the only one I can remember. That one had nothing to do with anything spiritual or metaphysical. I was just a relief pitcher and a pretty good batter. I never went anywhere.
Well, yeah. Have you read The Destiny of Souls and Journey of Souls, Michael Newton's work?
Yeah, I have.
No.
To me, that is the clearest answer about why and how karma works and how it all makes sense and what we choose between lives. Because as a human, we would never choose these things. But as a soul that says this is going to advance me, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, piece of cake.
Yeah, in that book too, doesn't he say that people come they come to take breaks and just have good lives sometimes and experience life?
Yeah,
Isn't
they
that
just
something?
stay through a couple of them and go, well, I guess I better get back to work now.
Right.
I think that's the reason why I can remember the baseball player, because it was pretty fun. It wasn't too bad. I still love baseball.
Yeah, I love baseball too. It kind of reminds me of that movie Bull Durham with Kevin Costner. Actually, that's
Believe it or not, I'd never watched that. I've watched a ton of baseball movie. My favorite is Major League, but I've never watched Bull Durham with Kevin Costner.
Well, it's got a love story in it, but it's still a good movie. I mean, if you're into baseball, everybody should watch that movie. Because I relate to it because I was a catcher for over 12 years, I think. So yeah, but I can understand too, just the emotional relation to watching films and how certain things happen, but triggering events that really happened. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, that's entirely different. If you're watching movies that in your mind that actually happened, that affect your body, that affect your emotions, do you feel like that you're going to have to do this forever kind of thing, like constantly work on this tapping? And I mean, it's okay if you do. Do you feel like that you need to be cured? How about that? Well,
I do feel like I need to get rid of this stuff. Yes. I don't think I have to work on it forever though.
No.
Because every time we unlock a door and spill out some of this poison, I realize that I'm standing taller and taller until eventually I know that I might be able to just get through some of the minor ones, whatever minor ones are left, on my own.
Interesting that you say that too, because look, we were at the top of the hour, but you say spill out this poison. I want to talk about what that poison is, and and I'm not saying it just because you said it that way. It makes me think, is it bad or good? I don't know. These feelings that we have, and I'll talk a little bit more about what happened to me too, so I can relate to you what I'm trying to say here. We'll be right back with Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archeology and Sean Gonzalez from Ian's Magic Oak. Stay with us. Why don't I?
Hi, I'm Alex Exum, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Hey, this is No Way Jose, a Northern California Piscean stuck in the Arizona desert. I'm a void walker, and I got the shoes to prove it. So what do I do when my soul yearns to delve deep into the realm of the unknown? I aim my satellite straight into the night sky and catch a smooth ride on the KTLK-DB radio waves. I tune into Lighting the Void with Joe Root on the Fringe FM.
Joe, Lighting the Void is the best show on the planet. This is Barney. your friend from Facebook. Thank you and all the crew for all you do. Namaste, my friend.
This is Macon from the foothills of North Carolina, and I am a void walker.
G'day, void walkers. This is Lily from down under Australia. The world may be small, the enigma is greater. So let your curiosity take you for a journey with Joe Root.
Hey, this is V, coming in from Central Maryland, and I am a void walker.
This is Kevin Doherty, a beginner void walker. I'm from Vancouver, BC. I know a little about a lot, and as Leonard Skinner said, I'll guess the rest. I learned a lot from Mr. Root in the show, and I heard it from the beginning. I knew right then he was going to be a new Art Bell. Thanks for all your shows, and keep it up.
Hey, this is Derek from Mass, a.k.a. the Night Stalker, and I'm a void walker.
This is Mark from Chicago, and I walk the void to ascertain what is consciousness.
My name is Jared Johnson, and I'm from Humboldt County, California. I do not know all of the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I'm a void walker. Thanks, Joe Root.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to The Fringe FM.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Have you ever seen an ad or banner which brought you a feeling that someone is reading your mind or even listening to your conversations? Your online data is being used against you. Surfshark is a VPN service that makes online privacy protection easy and attainable. You can use it on as many devices as you'd like simultaneously. Surfshark encrypts all internet traffic sent to and from your devices and ensures that your IP address remains hidden. The VPN service that we use at UFO Seekers, plus 1 month free for $1.99 a month. Visit surfshark.deals/seekers.
Hey, Fringe listeners, this is Dave Cruz, host of Beyond the Strange Radio, asking you to join us live Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. Pacific Time, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Fringe FM. Visit BeyondTheStrange.com for links to chat, social media, and schedules of the show. And remember, always stay strange. Hasta.
Somewhere between abnormal and paranormal, there's a show called Into the Paranormal. I'm Jeremy Scott. Hear me live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern on the Fringe FM.
This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie. Betelgeuse has been in the news recently. The famous star started dimming, leading some to believe it was on the verge of exploding in a giant supernova. The reason for its changing luminosity may be far more simple. According to a new study published in the Astrophysical Journal Letters, a team of astronomers suggested a possible reason behind Betelgeuse's mysterious dimming, arguing not only was the star not on the verge of death, it actually didn't change luminosity at all. The findings suggest that Betelgeuse's bright light was temporarily blocked from our view by material shed by the star in the form of a cloud of dust. Red supergiant stars such as Betelgeuse will often shed material as part of their life cycle. That material condenses around the star in the form of dust, which absorbs some of the star's light, obscuring our view from Earth, according to researchers. A rare medieval tile depicting a mythical beast has been discovered within the treasures recovered from a 14th century cesspit in England. Team members from the London Museum of Archeology found the cesspit while excavating a basement at the Courtauld Institute of Art. The pit measures 15 feet by 15 feet square, and the chalk-built structure has walls measuring 3 feet wide and 13 feet deep. When it was first created, the cesspit would have had seats used by residents and visitors of Chester Inn. By the 17th century, the chalk cesspit had been converted into a wine cellar. And in the 18th and 19th centuries, a small latrine was added in the northwest corner of the cesspit, and as scientists went deeper, they found what is being called the most curious find. They found a floor tile depicting a mythical beast dating between 1350 AD and 1390 AD. The archaeologists say the stylized tile was part of a 4-tile panel. The mythical creature is depicted with a human head and a leaf-like tail, which perfectly describes the manticore of Persian legend. A Bigfoot skeptic comes face to face with the creature. A husband and wife living in remote southern West Virginia claim to have encountered and photographed a Bigfoot. According to Bill Humphreys, the encounters occurred in late October in the woods near his home. On a series of consecutive nights, he left out food to attract game, and it began disappearing more quickly than usual. He stated everything was gone. Humphrey said he was able to snap a quick photo with his phone. The couple estimate the creature to be approximately 8.5 feet tall. They remarked it looked just like the creature in the Patterson-Gimlin film. This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie.
Pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada. You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Friday the 13th, there's no better way to celebrate it than tonight. Been talking about some weird and crazy stuff, pretty intense emotional stuff too with our guest tonight, Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archeology, as well as Sean Gonzalez from Ian's Magic Oak YouTube channel. And before the break, we were talking about what was happening to you with a lot of these events and visions and emotional responses that you've had to them. But when you were talking about specifically some of the events that have happened to you, you said getting rid of some of this poison. And I asked Barbara this too, like during my session, when these things started coming up and out. It felt good to release it, but it felt true. And usually when something feels true to me, I feel like, does that mean it's bad? So maybe, actually, you know what? I'll start with you, Barbara. Why is it good, or why is it bad to have these things in us? I mean, it's a good place to start, right? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't feel bad to me.
Let me give you an example. This is actually a woman that recently passed away that I used to work with. And she had an abortion, I don't remember, 30 years ago. I mean, we worked together a long time ago. And she kept that inside of her. She eventually married the man who was the baby's father. She never told him about it, but she always was angry and shameful and in the whole 9 yards around this event. And when she died, it was from ovarian cancer or uterine cancer. It was one of the two. And when they told me she died, I immediately knew it had to be something like that because she never forgave that part of her. Now that's kind of drastic, but the body's very, very literal. And so you can have things that are stuck there that if you don't resolve them, it can turn into something if it's significant to you.
Right. So it's kind of like the whole Hermetic thing, you know, as above, so below, as within, so without, where it manifests in your body, so to speak.
And this is someone I knew personally. This isn't second, third hand. So I just immediately knew what had happened.
So the barrier between a healthy emotions when it comes to, you know, traumatic, even paranormal traumatic stuff like what we're talking about with Sean here, and good is the line I'm trying to find. It's like, do these things just go away? I guess what I'm trying to do is define the bad, right? Like, we've had this experience. We know we've had it. We know it hurts. We know it scares us, this type of thing. When we release it, does it truly go away? You know,
okay, so not everything gets stuck in us, right? I mean, if it did, we'd all be, you know, quivering mounds of jelly walking around on two legs.
Yeah, sure.
But there are things that will get stuck that we don't want to face for whatever reason. It's too painful at the time. It was too hard to look back at, and you don't want to go back in and look at it. And you can have something that could be traumatic for one person that won't be traumatic for the other person. So it's look at those things that you are kind of afraid to take a look at. And that's kind of your first clue as to where you might want to do some housekeeping.
I don't know how you do what you do. Honestly, especially, do you do this with like your family members and people that you love too? You know, like you're close, like, you know, say Steve, for example, do you help people? So, yeah. And you know what? God bless my friends. I mean, they trusted me enough that when I was practicing with this and just starting to learn it, they went through it with me so that, you know, I didn't go skinning my knees on an unsuspecting public. But I got to tell you, as well as you think you know some people, when you start doing things like this, you learn things that you never, ever expected would be in somebody's past. And you know, I'm not saying judgmental at all. I'm just saying you just never would have thought they would have gone through something like that. You know, what's funny too is when you say judgmental is what I've kind of learned about this too with myself and others, especially if you really care or love somebody, they're ashamed of that pain. You know, like they don't want nothing to, even me, you remember that? Like they don't want nothing to do with it. Ashamed of it, embarrassed. And then on my, and I was like, why am I feeling that way? You know? And so I've witnessed this too. And all I can feel like is if it's with somebody that I care or love about, like I just want to fix it, right? I want to heal it. I will do whatever I got to do to fix it so they don't have to feel this anymore. That kind of thing. When you feel that way, how do you just trust in the method? I'm sure you probably go through some emotions yourself, right? I mean, we had to do a lot of work on ourselves all throughout certification training. We call it the personal peace procedure, where you do as much of an inventory as you can so that when a client has something that comes up, you are less likely to be triggered by that. You've done a lot of your own work. But there are things that we forget about too. And all of a sudden someone will bring it up and you'll get that little pang in your stomach and go, oh, look at that. That's still there. So, well, we borrow benefits. We tap right along with you and we clear it right along with you. And we get paid for it. That part's really great. Yeah, right. So in a case like Sean's where he's had so much, where do you begin? You know, or do you just kind of start asking questions and it starts revealing to you how deep it is? The client always leads. I always say that your body, and this, I was also taught this, that your body doesn't bring up anything you're not ready to deal with, that you should trust your body's wisdom because emotions are held in our body and we don't think about it that way. We kind of think they live in our head, but no, the body will bring it up. And then once you decide which way we're going to go, then I facilitate getting us there. But I never push anyone in any direction at all. I think that's fair to say, wouldn't you, Sean?
Yes. And one of the things that I found is it's not that the poison is the block to, okay, every experience that I've had, all of these terrible things and wonderful things, the learning that I'm supposed to get from it gets blocked behind this negative blast of emotions and terror and pain and suffering. And once the tapping, once Barbara helps me remove that, then the true learning comes in. The true learning that I was denied at that moment, because every moment is a chance to learn something, and trauma is an impediment to it. And she helps get that poison, that trauma away so that I can look at it objectively and then pull the information forward, like with knowing that I'd seen Lady Jane being beheaded, and now it no longer freaks me out, and that kind of thing. Right.
This is interesting. See, because I was brought up to, can totally control your emotions, never let them out, don't shed a tear, be a man, that kind of thing. Because my dad always taught me, like, if they see you panicking, then they're going to panic. You know what I mean? Like, someone always is looking for somebody to keep it together. And that's how he taught me how to be, try to keep it together. But that's not who I am. So I've been in this constant fight my whole life, like, that's not who I am. If I feel something, I want to say it. Right. And
well, right. But see, there's a time for that. And then there's also a time for, introspection and saying, where do I want to take this? Right. People can take strength from seeing somebody strong experience their emotions as well.
Yeah, and then I know Daniel Joseph and Dr. Stylianos Ateshlis. Someone asked me who that is. Just look up Daskalos or the book, The Magick of Strovolos. He talks about this. He says, like every night, and they have their own methods of dealing with this, but he says every night when we pray or whatever, we should do introspection, right? Like, hey, what did I do this day? How did I react to this person? Did I help?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. Not judgment, not where you're beating yourself up, but more like, how could you have been better at what you're trying to do, I guess. That kind of thing.
Turn it into a learning session at the end of the day before you go. Yeah.
I would say that my problem, though, and we'll get back into the stories, but my problem is if I see somebody hurting a stranger, I want to make it go away. If I really care about somebody, then I get even angry at it. I want it to go away because I don't want that person to feel that, but maybe they should, like, who am I to stop them from feeling that? And,
no, there's a certain amount of feeling pain that is, you feel the pain so you don't keep doing the same thing. But sometimes we can drag the emotional pain down on top of ourselves because we keep beating ourselves up with it as a means of trying to never forget that we were that stupid or that we were that gullible or whatever. And that's one of the things that Barbara and I've been working on as well, because my family was being directed by the thing that had come after me from Wales. And they were terrible at me. See, they went from being a not wonderful family. Well, the thing that came after me in Wales that, I mean, you want me to tell this whole story,
sure,
tap this out. This one's a big one. But what happened was it realized it couldn't get me anymore. And so it went after my family. But okay, so we'll go back to 1977. I'm 5 years old. And my family, now through this whole visit to England, because we've been there for months, we were there for like 2.5 months, and they were menacing me with all these different things that they knew that they could throw me at, because there was all these ghosts and they knew that they could expose me to them, and they thought I was just afraid because just the saying there's a ghost there was freaking me out, even though they would see me seeing things. Mm-hmm. They would tell me it's my imagination. They locked me onto the rampart of a keep in the middle of the moors, where an old guy and Barbara and I had to work on this one, with smelly clothes kept on coming near me. And only now, after having tapped it out, did I realize that he was just curious why I could see him. And I was actually at the age of 5 considering jumping off of the battlements to my death to get away from this guy because I was so scared.
Wow. Yeah.
There was a thing came out of the mirror at my aunt Celia's house while I was trying to use the restroom, locked me in so that I couldn't get away. And as I'm turning this skeleton key, trying to get it to open, and no matter which way I turned it, it would not let the door open. And he's standing right next to me. Eventually, had pulled himself out of the mirror, dressed in 1920s, penciled mustache, pinstripe suit, very polished shoes. I couldn't remember that until she got me. We tapped through that. All I got was the terror and the desire not to be in that room,
or feel it. Yeah, not to be around it.
Which reminded me of what happened to Danny in the room where the lady climbs out of the bathtub and is following him slowly through the room that he's not supposed to be in, and he's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not real. It's not real. And
yeah, I remember.
And they're telling me this isn't real. It's like hell, it's not. So the big event was we went to Wales to visit my mother's second cousins, Glynis and Roy, and their stories that had been telling us were about the fact that the second bedroom, full-grown men couldn't sleep in there because ghosts would shake them awake, etc. Now, I never was put in that room. I was put in the room on the right, not on the left. And I didn't know this. I fell asleep because my brother and sister had been menacing me until I was freaked out beyond belief, and I passed out on the train trip out there. And I woke up in the bed, and I thought this is the room. And now keep in mind, I was never in that room. But I knew I could see the ghost, so I was freaked out the instant I woke up. I was going to get out of bed and run out of that room, but the instant that I did, something else that was now active sensed that I was awake, and did not let me leave the room. In fact, as soon as I tried to move, it began to crush me. Now, we have to run forward in the story to about 4 years ago. I found out by watching shows on archaeology that had been being done in Wales. The Druids and the Celts of the time would dispose of people who would sacrifice themselves to the gods, as well as criminals, by throwing them into the bog to drown. Now, these people were perfectly preserved because in the bog, their bodies were mummified. In 1977, it was the end of a 3-year-long drought. There was flooding going on. So these empty bogs were now flooding back up, and bodies were coming up to the surface en masse. I didn't know this as a 5-year-old. In fact, until 2014, when they were talking about this on the National Geographic Channel, I didn't know that was occurring. And they even said the year, and it sent ice water through my veins. So now I knew what I now know what this was, and I call it the Bog Creature. And the description of it, when it drove out the light in the room, and it squeezed itself under the door like it had mass. It didn't just come through the door.
Like an octopus or something? How they squid?
And it was making a noise like this. Like it was trying to constantly take a deep breath. Okay. And it was getting louder. And as it was crushing my chest. And I realized that was one part, it didn't want me to leave. And the other part was I was experiencing the deaths of these people because they couldn't breathe. It threw me back against the headboard, and my head hit this metal headboard so hard I saw stars for a second. But when I opened my eyes again, I peed myself. Full-fledged, just urinated, because this thing had now spread itself out like bat wings and was reaching out and was just a massive dark shadow, darker than black. And when it touched me, it started pressing on my eyes, and it hurt so bad. It was like something had like ice.
What do you think this thing is?
Squeezing.
What is it trying to? What's its purpose?
To make more of itself. Here's how I know. My guide, Aramid, in that moment, God, I'm gonna cry because she saved me. She actually saved me. She wasn't supposed to do this.
Yeah, this is beautiful.
And she touched the top of my head, and all of a sudden the gateway was open. I could see things, but now I was something else. And a light filled the room. It just shot out of the top of my head and filled the room. And everything was super bright, including the shadow in front of me, which had two effects. One, it didn't want to touch me anymore. Two, I could now see what it looked like because it was really, really dark in the room. And now I could see that it was a bunch of faces turned in all these different directions of things. Imagine people pressing their faces against a latex curtain and screaming and their mouths wide open in pain and the color of oil slick and mud. And I was so freaked out. My eyes clamped shut because of the brightness, but also at the same time, because I'll never forget.
Now, Aramid, your guide, when did you meet your guide and how did you find out her name?
I didn't know until 4 years ago because I didn't know. I thought that was all something that just happened, but it wasn't. She was keeping back because originally my guide was supposed to be her father, Diane Sect. And he was the one who turned this thing in my direction to toughen me up. It's like, well, he's not progressing fast enough. Let's go toughen him up. And sent this thing at me, which was an amalgamation of souls. And it wanted more. It wanted to feed so that it could keep being. And I was the brightest light in the area, so it came right at me. It was like training a hungry lion directly at a cow that was tied down and couldn't escape.
Interesting. Wow. So your theory on that is, I want to remind me to talk about that later, about the dangers of astral travel and lighting herself up in the astral realm. But yeah, keep going, please.
So when the light erupted from the top of my head, which is from the crown chakra, it ran for it. But it also took a while for it to get out of the room, but it was making squealing noises like it was in pain. And I was quickly losing energy. I was completely spent because this burnt through several barriers. I wasn't supposed to be doing this for several lifetimes. And the pain in the top of my head was so beyond belief. It was like somebody had just taken a can opener, cut open the top of my head, popped it open, and got a blowtorch that was as hot as the sun and was pouring it right down on my brain. And it was so beyond painful. And when I tumbled out of the bed, that was the last thing I remembered for 3 days. And I didn't remember this event until just around Christmas time, which was 4 or 5 months later, because that was August. So yeah, 4 months later, it was locked out of my head until I woke up one morning and I was going to the bathroom, and just the way that I was going to the bathroom unlocked everything, just reminded me.
Wow.
And all of a sudden it came flooding back, and my brother found me on the floor shaking because the memory was so, and I tried to explain it to him, and I realized it was going to be a losing battle. But
yeah, like, no, I mean, honestly, how can anybody, most people, relate to that? That's going to be tough if you tell that story. So realistically, Barbara, if Sean was to tell these stories to a regular, let's just say licensed therapist, what do you, I mean, we all kind of know what's going to happen. I think it's like they're going to start at, have you done that, by the way? Have you talked to a licensed therapist? Just curious. I'm not trying to get real personal with you, man, but just, this is for like everybody that's going through this kind of stuff, if they are.
I talked to a doctor, specialist named Dr. Froman. And he said, I don't specialize in mass hysteria and hallucinations of this kind. We should probably get you checked for schizophrenia. I'm like, okay. So I never brought it up again.
Yeah, right.
In our second session.
So that's got to be scary, because you're thinking, here comes the shock therapy, here comes the medication, yeah.
And I don't know how to tell him, like, no, that I'm completely sane. And so this creature that had come after me was now affecting my family, because it couldn't touch me anymore. It simply could not touch me. And it also couldn't touch my grandfather. My grandfather had been run down by a lady doing 65 in a 25 mile an hour zone, shattered him across the middle. And he flatlined 3 times on the way. If she hadn't hit him 200 feet from the Lenox Fire Department on Lenox Boulevard,
he wouldn't have made it. Yeah.
He wouldn't have made it. They came running. They said, you don't need to take the car. They just came ran over and started giving him CPR, and then they got him, to Hawthorne Memorial. And he was the one who told my mother, this was before I was born, don't give up your child. And she says, well, what are you talking about? Because she had been keeping it quiet. She said, yeah, don't give up your child. I met him. And she said,
interesting. See, this kind of reminds me of the Bell Witch, when we talked to Pat, Pat, that's been on the show a couple times. I'm forgetting his last name for some reason, but he wrote about the Bell Witch, where the ghost or the entity started attacking family members and stuff.
And now it didn't attack him so much as goose up their animosity. So everything they did horrible things to me. Horrible. My father was worse than any of them, but the damage that they did was outrageous. And the things that they my sister said it probably the most succinctly. She said, I don't know what it is, Sean, but every time I come into a room and you're there, it just feels wrong, and I want to hurt you. And it feels good when we do. And my brother nodded. And I was, I think 7 at the time.
The
and it hurt emotionally so bad.
Yeah,
so
I bet,
bad.
man. That sounds terrible.
But
and you could tell they were being truthful too. I can tell by your story, like that's awful.
Now back to my grandfather. He'd seen me before I was born, apparently. So he told her, and she hadn't told anybody that she was pregnant with me, because my father and they were going to give me up because she'd had cysts that were so bad they were actually saying they were precancerous. So they were leaning towards getting rid of me. And my grandfather said, "No, I met him. Don't. He'll be fine."
All right, so let's hold right here with your grandfather, because we're at the break. We'll be right back with Barbara and Sean. You guys stay with us.
This is Rev Dan Lopez from Spiritual Warrior Today Radio, and you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Panic is hitting our country through fear of catching a cruddy virus. Face masks, antibacterial soap, water, toilet paper being purchased in mass quantities. If you want your immunity up, I call it our shields, you need Allison Advanced. One pill is equal to 35 cloves of garlic, and you won't smell like garlic, and it won't leave you with bad breath. So 35 cloves of garlic in one pill? Yes! Shields up. And when your shields are up, you're safe. Enjoy the confidence of not having fear of a cruddy virus. So here's how to order. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Front page, scroll down. It'll say Big Al and Super Tea for savings. Or click on the immune and find Allison Advanced. Our tea does a wonderful job too, just to let you know. And for added benefits, take your blood pressure reads and watch Allison Advanced love on your blood pressure. Shields up. Getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hi, this is David Oman with HouseAtTheEndOfTheDrive.com. You're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of the Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
Hi, this is Kronox from Belgium, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Alex Exum.
This is Alex Exum of the Exum Experience in Live Talk, where we discuss current events, society, and culture. My shows are based in actuality, actual existence, contrasted with what was intended, expected, or believed. You can listen to me live Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 7 p.m. only on KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com. Or to speak with a trained consultant. Give Angioprim a call at 954-882-7221. That's 954-882-7221.
This is Reverend John M. Polk, and you are listening to KTLK Digital Broadcasting right here on the Fringe.fm.
welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. If everything works out, this is the first time I've said this, if everything works out, we're going to be at the Ozark UFO Conference April the 10th through the 12th, right, Barbara? If everything works out. You know,
what do you mean if we are going?
Yeah, they haven't said anything about canceling it, you know, so, and it's just a drive for me. So if you guys are around, come see us, come hang out with us. We'll be there April the 10th through the 12th. And Barbara will be there, Steve, I'll be there. I believe Amanda's going to be there. It depends. I think it depends on, I hope this stuff goes away because I really want to go there. Like Whitley Strieber's going to be there, David Politis, George Norrie. It's going to be cool. It's going to be a cool event. It's a
really good show. We went last year, I think, and you were there the year before that. They do a good job.
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys can come out and hang out with us, it'll be a good time. Now, before the break, we were talking about your story and your guide. Sean, I'm so interested in this. What was your guide's name? Was Aramid? Is that right?
Aramid, yeah.
Okay. And so you're telling us about all the stuff that happens to you, how your brothers and sisters were horrible to you. Everybody was horrible to you. Doctors are thinking you're crazy, that kind of thing. It's all in your mind. It just sounds like a horrible childhood. I don't hate to say it. That's the truth. It sounds awful. And
it was.
Now your grandfather comes along and how does he play into this picture? Does he rescue you? Pretty much.
Well, keep in mind, my grandfather was shattered across the middle. His legs were broken in 27 places in his left leg and over 40 in his right. My grandfather was missing 2 toes off of each foot. Some of them were stumps of bone. Others were clean, taken away. And he could barely walk. And he put himself into this recliner. I still have it, by the way. That's my recliner now. And the lazy boy. And he and I used to sit together, and he would, whenever my mother would or siblings would get horrible, he would call for me to come to him, and I would be near him so that he could protect me from their crap. And my nickname in the family was El Feo. That means the ugly. That's that. And he would, whenever they would start throwing that one at me to make me feel bad, he would say, stop it. He's not. And because of what they've done, it's taken a long time where I could look in the mirror and see myself as a normal person. All I saw was Quasimodo. With Barbara's help, a lot of this has dropped away. Seriously, these body shaming crap really did a lot of damage. But my grandfather's love kept me from basically going over the line. And I from him I learned courage, stoicism, bravery, but more than anything, love. The night that he passed, my mother had kept me from being able to go see them. I'm still mad at her about this. We haven't worked on this one.
No, not yet.
The night that he passed, I went to bed exhausted. My mother made me work ridiculously hard, not only around the house, but also I had a paper route, school. I'd have to wake up extra early and I'd have to clean until sometimes 1 a.m. because she didn't feel like doing it. And my brother enjoyed breaking, messing, leaving things that I had to clean and knowing that was my job. And I'm half dead in bed and I fall asleep. My grandfather comes to me and says, "Niño, murió hoy." Son, I died today.
Wow.
And he took me, and I'm sitting with him in the Robert F. Kennedy Memorial Hospital, the hospital I was born in, and where he was dying. And I'm sitting with him in a chair next to him, and he's telling me how proud he was of me. He says, you have good things that you're going to do. Never forget, I love you. And you won't always be able to see me even with your gifts, but I'll always be able to watch you. You're never far.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Cool. That's cool though, to have that for, that's really cool. I think a lot of us wish we had someone like that.
Yeah. And I woke up the following morning, about 3:00 in the morning. I think I'd been out for 2 hours. And I was angry. I was beyond angry. I was livid. I had been trying to find a time where my mother wasn't throwing one task after another in my way so I could go be with him. And I was enraged. And that was the last time my mother had a hand in controlling me, because I just lost the person who meant the most to me in my life, who had protected me and protected me against all of this garbage that they constantly were shoveling in my direction. And I turned to her and I said, my grandfather is dead, and you've kept me from seeing him for the last time.
Good for you.
And she began to sputter at me. Oh, I haven't done any of these things. And what are you talking about? He's dead. I said, you ask anybody that knows my aunt, my tiada, who worked in the same school district with her, and they will pass you that message. He died just now. And I was so beyond angry. Even right now, it's hard to talk.
Yeah, sure.
Because I was robbed of a last goodbye. And I know it's stupid because I was with him right to the end.
Doesn't that heal, Barbara, though? Like, that's healed me. And I don't know about in Sean's case, but when people have wronged me and it's something I've carried for a long time, I feel like, I'm not going to go beat them up, but really looking them in the eye and telling them how they hurt me and that they're not going to do it anymore, that has healed me. Do you think that's a good thing?
Yeah, I do think it's a good thing, especially when you come to it from a position of strength as opposed to a position of being punitive. You're just stating your truth, and you can't affect me with this anymore. That's very healing, I think.
Yeah, right, because you're claiming your power, right? And that this doesn't have power over you anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, whole different perspective.
So 3 days later, it took her a while to get the information, but she looked at me and she apologized. Said, I'm sorry, he did pass on. I said, I know. There's no need to tell me. She said, how did you know? I said, because we spoke in my dream. He came to me. He said, you will never be able, he told me, he says, your mother will never be able to stop me coming to you again. Now, about a year later, I was able to speak with my aunt, my tiada, and she said, when your this is going to freak everybody out, so hold on to your seats, folks. He was telling them as he was being taken away in the ambulance. He says, once I get out of here, I'm going to get better, and I'm going to go see Juanito. That's my nickname, the Juanito, not Juanito, because he couldn't say Sean. He says, and they will never be able to keep me away from him. This time, no matter what she does, what his mother does, I will go there. I will walk there. I will take a bus there, and we will go and spend time together. Which matched exactly what my grandfather told me in that last vision, that she will never be able to stop him from coming to me again.
Yeah, and it's true too, man. I can tell you took your power back on that, like big time. That's a hard thing to do, to face that pain and go back and do those kinds of things. And it doesn't have to be a paranormal event or anything like that. That's the point to all this, like that's why Barbara offers, if you've had, you offer people help that have had a paranormal event, trauma in their life, because in cases like Rashawn's, who's he going to go to? Who's going to help him?
Exactly. There's a nurse at one of our doctor's offices who used to be a psych nurse. And I run these things by her, and I said, let me ask you, what would happen if someone came in and said this to you? And she said, yeah, we would consider that a psychotic break. And I'm like, but what about helping them with what's really going on? Oh, but they don't think that's really going on. Now, the nurses understood, but the doctors didn't. And I think there's a big distinction there.
Man, I tell you guys about this horrible event that happened with a friend of mine who was helping us on the station a long time ago. And I don't know if she dabbled with something she wasn't supposed to. I don't know what happened. All right. I want to talk. I bring this up because people always ask, like, Joe, why are you afraid about what people are going to do because of what you're saying? Because I feel like that these things are very real. That's why. Whether you're practicing magic, mysticism, astral traveling, whatever, I feel like that if you don't respect these things and you play with them and like they're your toys, that they will come back and bite you, And
who was this? I don't remember.
Well, it doesn't matter who, but it was more like, their family called and was like, she's in the bathroom saying all this stuff, and I'm like, well, put her on the phone, and Yeah, and then she's telling me all the stuff, like she heard my voices and all of these different things, and I'm thinking, what did you do? And she was talking about she just practiced Reiki. That's all she did. That's what she told me. Just, practicing Reiki, and whatever this entity is holding my chakra, and it's dripping in my brain. And guess what? Her kids are mad at me because they think I've casted some black magic spell on her, taking it out on me, right? And I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
Anybody.
And they took her to the hospital, strapped her down, and gave her psychiatric treatment. And to this day, I feel like that girl was really gifted and she needed a little guidance, but to this day, I don't know what happened. And it scared the hell out of me. And it scares me sometimes thinking about it. I just want people to respect it. And I mean, even you, Sean, we've had this discussion about the astral realm, like you believe that there's some real danger there, right?
I've experienced the real danger. Some of the things that I have had to deal with for people has left me injured. And that's even recently, even with all of my abilities, some of these things can tag me right through my protection. And even though I'm not astrally projecting, I'm mentally projecting and creating an artificial body. I've recently been, oh my gosh, the most recent one was a cut on my inner arm because this thing had a horn that got past my defenses and it just raked me up the right side of my inner arm. When I ended the session and I came back to my body, I'm like, oh God, look at that. And it was dripping blood. I still have the scar. It's a little faint, jagged, sort of off pink, slightly reddish scar, but it's still there.
I still have a hard time getting my head around that, Sean, but with as much armor as you put on and how you protect, how you project, and they can still affect you like that physically.
I've been at this thing that we closed over a lake. I'm not supposed to mention where or who or for what, with two other people that we closed. I had an acid burn on my left hand for a month and a half, and that thing was glowing hot. I held it out so that my son could feel it. He says, "There's heat coming off there." I said, "I know, it's an acid burn. It hurts." And that took about a month and a half. And that was with all of my protections, because some of these things that I go after are just incredible. They're in strength. Some of these things scare me. Other things are just a nuisance. Others are heartbreaking. Like that person I helped in Louisiana 2 weeks ago. That one ruined me.
Well, this happens to people a lot. Like when I had my first out-of-body experience where I peeled myself out of my body, it was fun. It was amazing. It was intriguing. I didn't see anything. But then after that, I felt like I was in a battle with things, entities, kind of deals. And other people have told me that. They have an experience, or the first time they get out or something's either sitting on them or choking them or these kinds of things. Like there's something there trying to keep them from doing whatever it is they're doing. Now, that alone should be enough to tell you that you should kind of study this and know what you're doing if you're going to get involved with it, in my opinion. But it could just be projected fears. I don't know yet. I'm still trying to learn myself.
Well, in the astral realm, if you go there while you're asleep, you can, since the astral realm itself is literally a backdrop for manifestations of your will, things can be there that you create yourself. If you do that long enough, you can actually create a spirit that will eventually have a life of its own. You can do that even while you're conscious and still on this plane, but that's like a different subject altogether. And like a hearth spirit or a land guardian spirit, or I've encountered many people who have them, and they don't even realize that they have these little helpers. Hearth spirits, also known as Mon-Fri, aren't there to kill you by wailing because, oh, this family member going to die, I'm going to wail. No, they're there to help protect you. Mon-Fri literally just means lady fae, lady fairy, and they stick to you to protect you in your home because they like you, and they can be created on purpose. And in the past, I believe people used to do that in order to be able to bequeath to their family some measure of protection that travels along with the family members. And it almost always follows the eldest female in the family.
That's romantic, really, when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so there can be things that are negative out there that people create. And then there's also the things that are out there that I've faced that are not created, that are just people who don't want to move on. And in some cases, they're quite strong, or they're doing their best to descend to a level that's demonic in nature. And because they really like being the bad guy. I've encountered far too many of those in the last 6 months, especially since I've been reaching out to help people. But the most recent event that I went through to help someone had nothing to do with demons. It had to do with a couple that didn't want to move on, and they wanted to stay in the house that they'd lived and died in. And they'd made an arrangement with a loa called Baron Samedi so that they could stay.
They made an arrangement. They made a pact. You mean like?
Yes. And I zip into the house in projected form, and I see these two people there, a black couple. And the reason I'm there is because it's already attacked the little boy and had been throwing stuff around they've been throwing stuff around the house and frightening them, making noises, scratched the kid. That's it. At that point, there's no more, the kid gloves are off. But I'm now dealing with a black couple that they look just like any other people. And I'm now, they're not monsters. And I'm feeling terrible because I now have to take them out, and I have to remove them from the house. I have to remove them from the situation, and I have to break their hold on this world. And as I'm doing that, as I pull the mail out and I'm telling you, you have to go, over my right shoulder, I hear a deep voice say, "You can't do that. I have an arrangement with them." And I turn and look. And,
nice accent. Like it. Yeah, okay.
And there's Baron Samedi with a top hat and a coat down to his ankles, floating in the air. And my first thought is, oh boy, this just went from a 1 to an 11.
Yeah, so you're about to be in a war, huh?
And I'm thinking, I haven't had to face anything quite this dangerous in about 3 years. Is he going to do something? And at the same time, I'm thinking, I really probably wouldn't mind if he did, because I feel like garbage, because these two were in love so deeply that they didn't want to be parted even by the afterlife.
Oh, that's kind of romantic though.
And he didn't do anything as I broke their hold on this world, and they turned into light and dissipated. But for about a week afterwards, I felt really bad. Barbara and I worked on it, and it still affects me, because love is the guiding principle by which I work. And it's heartbreaking to know that they went through all that trouble to try and stay together. And I went and stepped in, and I had to end it because they overreached themselves and did something they shouldn't. They couldn't just stay there and be peaceful because they were remodeling the house. They got mad and they took it out on the kid.
You know, Sean, you just gave me an idea. Do you think we should, when that opportunity presents itself, I wonder if any of this would help the spirits that don't want to move on? If we could work with them and do some sort of tapping, ethereal tapping. I don't know. It just occurred to me.
I don't know. I would like an alternative to having to be, because they went offensive, but they weren't. It was like being attacked by 2-year-olds, and I'm the guy in armor, and I'm standing there having to do what I'm doing with they couldn't resist, and I felt like the bad guy in that moment. I really did.
We should try that. We should, let's noodle that a little bit. I like that idea.
Now I want to go back to the guide Aramid. See, this is something that I've looked into as well. Like, and I'm sure if you've studied Little Crowley, you've been a thaumaturgist, that they talk about this notion of the holy guardian angel, right? Mm-hmm. Or your guide. Is that the same thing to you?
In thaumaturgy, the holy guardian angel usually means one of the 12, like such as Michael. I got to say this so people understand it instead of saying it in the proper term. Michael or Gabriel, depending on your celestial alignment, depending on the element that you most relate to.
Sure.
In my case, I believe it would be Auriel.
So you most relate to Earth?
No, Auriel. So most of
you're thinking Oriel. Sorry. So
yeah.
So Aramid then is something completely different then, right? That's
Aramid is a guide. It's funny because she tells me things that I don't know about a great many things, including my past, what happened when I was younger, but also she knows things about plants that I never learned, vegetables. Now, ever since she and I started communicating, herbs grow really well around me no matter where I live. And I don't even have to do anything except cast down seeds, and they will come back again and again and again and again and again.
That's cool.
I live in the high desert.
How do we, and that's what I'm getting at here, how do we learn how to communicate with our guides if we all have them? Is there something that we can do to learn who they are, like their names, have better relationships with them, or is it just something that only you can do, kind of, special people?
What I have learned is that the first thing you have to do is know how to calm your mind, and that's through meditation.
Right.
And then you can actually ask them to come forward and talk to you. Now, keep in mind, I didn't even believe that I had one, because I was so estranged from the entire concept of it that I thought I was alone, that I wouldn't even reach out or even accept one. Now, I have 4 elemental guardians that were bequeathed to me by my family on my mother's side. So these guys came forward when I began practicing thaumaturgy, because they were worried I was going to enslave them, which is the standard. I didn't. I made them friends instead. And so I have the skill to speak with spirits that are near me in that fashion. But I never ever believed that I had a guide. I didn't, because keep in mind what had happened, and the very nature of what happened to me was estranging to any idea of another higher power helping me to wend my way through this. And Aramid wasn't originally supposed to be my guide. She stepped in. She would not let me. Here we go again. Because I reminded her of her brother, she would not let me be torn apart. So she stepped in and said, I'll be his guide, and took over. So I didn't know she was there. Now, guides change throughout people's lives. As you need a different guide, new ones will come in. So I had practice with quieting my mind. So when I met Janice Woyson, she's one of the experts I deal with. She said, no, everybody's got a guide. You just have to know. You just have to know that they're there. And she meditated on it, and then used her guides to work with my elemental, one of my elemental protectors. Her name is Ariel. She's the air elemental to help bring Aramid through, so that I could speak with her. Because I had so many mental blocks up, so many emotional blocks, that if I'd met Barbara and we'd been doing this years before, this would have not been such an issue. But Janice was able to help bring her to me. And then because I'd had all this practice talking to my elementals, I can talk to her directly. And it's just so easy, but there's an easy banter between us. So the first step is quiet your mind, meditate, and then ask them to come through, and know that they're there. I promise you, even for me, somebody who's jaded and made to feel alone and ostracized and all that stuff, I promise you, someone is there waiting to guide you and give you the right information, as long as you can calm your inner voice, your inner ego. Just drop it so that you can hear them. Heck, she'll even berate me if I do something wrong. If I reach for produce that isn't ripe, she'll tell me.
That's helpful, right?
She's really good on that one. I've actually I'm going to grab some Honeycrisp apples, and she'll go, no, not that one. I drop them. Or I think my favorite story I could tell you is about these grapes that stunk of fish, and I didn't know that because I'm about 20 feet away from them picking mushrooms. And I mentioned to my roommate, because we're getting groceries together. I said, I know the kids want grapes. I wonder which ones I should get. And she says, well, not the red ones. I said,
wow, that is pretty really cool. I mean, wouldn't we all want that? I can't believe that we're at the top of the hour already again. You believe that, Barbara? It's going by quick.
No, not even believe I'm alert and awake at this hour.
Well, welcome to the late night. We'll be right back. More Lighting the Void coming up.
In your face, all over the place. We're on Online 24/7. 24/7. You're listening to the hottest internet station.
Listen, I want to tell you about G.I. Joy from GetTheTea.com. It's the best alchemical concoction of goodies for your stomach and digestive system I can recommend, and that's all based on my experience. Packed with colostrum, acidophilus, aloe, peppermint, and turmeric. If you do your own research, then you know this is the bee's knees for the stomach and digestion. Now, due to Big Brother's ears and the eye in the sky, you know I can't go into the details about what it helped me with. All I can say is I got relief. It's non-GMO, no fillers, no preservatives, manufactured right here in the US of A, and delivered to you by the only people who stay on top of the game and are out in front. Go grab a bottle of G.I. Joy at GetTheTea.com and see what all the fuss is about. Again, that's GetTheTea.com.
AncientLifeOil.com. For your CBD needs, just remember, AncientLifeOil.com. What does it do for the body, you ask? I can't say due to the people in the suits that run the industry. Big Pharma is all over CBD because of its well, you know what I mean. Research the benefits of CBD on Google and come back to AncientLifeOil.com and purchase your CBD today. Non-GMO and all organic. You don't want to be using a petroleum product. You want to be using the cleanest CBD product on the market. AncientLifeOil.com. We even have CBD for your pet. Help your pet's discomfort. Help your discomfort. Log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Newly reduced prices to pass off the savings to the most important person. You. AncientLifeOil.com. And one more thing, we have topicals too. So if you have joint pain and some different issues that are going on in your body, you might want to use a topical. Think about it. AncientLifeOil.com.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Fringe FM. See you then.
My name is Jake. I'm from Billings, Montana, and I am a void walker.
Hey, Joe Root. Thanks for lighting the void. This is Janine in the bluegrass of Kentucky, and I am a void walker.
What's up, guys? This is Damien from San Marcos, Texas, and I'm a void walker. I listen to the show to keep myself aligned with the world.
Hi, this is Laura, a.k.a. Laura Lavender. I'm from Las Vegas, and I listen to Lighting the Void because it helps me understand some of the strangest experiences I've had. So thanks for all that you do and for always being there for us, Joe.
Ever seen an extraterrestrial? It can be hard to believe they exist unless you've seen one for yourself. What if I told you I've seen them my whole life, but have never had a witness who shared the encounter with me? Now, what if I told you I saw 4 of them, 2 with blue skin, and there are over 20 witnesses to this CE5 event? My new book, The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, documents actual accounts from real witnesses, many of which have gone on record to attest to this otherworldly reality. Be a part of the quantum paradigm shift that is taking place right now. Go to johnpolkmedia.com to get your copy of The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, on sale right now at johnpolkmedia.com. That's JOHNPOLK media.com.
This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie. Scientists at Wake Forest Institute for Regenerative Medicine have created the world's most sophisticated lab model of the human body, developing a full system of miniaturized organs known as organoids. The advanced system of organoids has been used to determine whether or not a given pharmaceutical is toxic in the human body, which could eliminate the need for animal testing altogether. The results were published last month in the scientific journal Biofabrication. Organoids are minuscule 3D tissue cultures sourced from stem cells. They typically range in size from less than the width of a human hair to 5 millimeters. A U.S. judge has ordered the immediate release of former Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning from prison. Manning had been reprimanded for refusing to testify in an inquiry into WikiLeaks and had been in detention in Virginia since last May. She was scheduled to appear in court on Friday, but the judge ruled that it was no longer necessary for her to testify. Manning was found guilty in 2013 of charges including espionage for leaking secret military files to WikiLeaks. U.S. prosecutors are seeking the extradition of WikiLeaks co-founder Julian Assange from the UK over his alleged role in the release of classified and diplomatic material in 2010. Who owns adamantium real estate? And no, it's not Wolverine. The secret owner of the Utah UFO hotspot Skinwalker Ranch has come forward. In 2016, Utah real estate tycoon Brandon Fugel bought the 512-acre property from its former owner, aerospace billionaire Robert Bigelow. And officially owned by Adamantium Real Estate, Fugel's ownership remained secret until an interview with Vice, in which Fugel describes his plans for the property and its alleged mysteries, while declining to disclose how much he paid Bigelow for the property. Fugel says, "Science and discovery are what drive me. It's not money. It's not that I'm obsessed with UFOs or little green men or cattle mutilations or shape-shifting demonic entities. I have no idea if aliens exist. You'd have to ask them." Two consultants on Fugel's investment team brought him into contact with Bigelow, eventually leading to his purchase of Skinwalker Ranch. Fugel will appear in the upcoming History Channel documentary, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, premiering on March 31st. Archaeologists have identified the bones of one of England's earliest saints. The remains were found hidden behind a church wall in the southern part of the country. The remains of St. Ainsworth were never thoroughly analyzed until now, and after extensive testing, it was announced that the bones were indeed St. Ainsworth. This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie.
You're listening to Lighting the Void. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. If you would like to text, you can text in at 501-777-5631.
All right. Last hour of the week for Lighting the Void. And we're here with Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archeology and Sean Gonzalez from Ian's Magic Oak on YouTube. Don't you love that, Barbara? Right before I say your name, I'm like, we're here with, what's your name again? Barbara. Yeah, so I'm incredibly impressed, Sean, by the stories that you've told, just to be honest. And I think it's a lovely thing that you're willing to share this stuff with us, seeing how, because it's so hard, right, to talk about these things. But I know that it's going to help somebody. And when people have had, I'm just curious, Barbara, have people been contacting you from the station and talking to you? Because I'm telling you guys, you can trust her. I'm giving you my word on this.
It's been wonderful.
Do they? Good. That's good.
In fact, I just got another email from someone today saying that they might not have so much paranormal, but they felt so good about listening to some of the work that we have done that they wanted to talk to me anyway. It's like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it really is helping people. And let's see, we do have a caller here from 701 area code. You're on the air. Who are we speaking with?
Hi, you guys. It's Danielle from North Dakota.
Hey, Danielle. How are you?
Danielle.
Good.
What is on your mind?
Hello.
What is on my mind?
Yeah.
Besides the fact that I had to sit and tap my way through listening to Sean this evening.
I'm sorry.
His story is quite... Oh, no. It's just how I am. I can't always approach a situation as detached as I would like to without getting hit with full force of what that person is feeling. So,
well, you work with Barbara too, right?
You getting it out.
So you relate to a lot of what he's talking about. Can you kind of walk us through how Barbara's helped you a little bit?
Well, somehow or another, I wound up over on the Fringe FM in October, this past year. I don't even know how I wound up over there because I was a dedicated Clyde Lewis Ground Zero listener for many, many, many years.
We have that effect on
And
people, but Clyde does mention us too, so that's probably how it happens.
Yes, he does. He does. It very well could have been, but once I got over to your guys' network in October, I was in a really bad place physically with severe anemia and was not aware of it quite yet. And I was outreaching desperately for help at that point because I was suffering from, and still am to an extent, what is called PISD, which is post-infidelity stress disorder. And, just following your guys' topics, my life has been one paranormal event after another, but I've never had it traumatize me. I've experienced more trauma from human contact than I have from something paranormal. But it was that November show that Barbara and Sean were on that caught me. And I just reached out and spilled out what was going on with me to Barbara in seeking any sort of help to relieve me from some of these symptoms I was having with what had gone on in my life in the last couple of years. And I'm glad I did, because she has been a lifesaver.
That's
and
fantastic.
It wasn't long before Sean actually got involved to help out with some of the unusual paranormal stuff that goes on in my household. So,
well, what kind of things go on in your household? Like when you say that? If you're comfortable,
you know how children are supposed to outgrow. Children are supposed to outgrow poltergeist activity.
Sure.
That never happened with me. I have to be really cautious about where I put my emotions because things will blow up around me, including appliances. But my children, I've got 5 kids, all 16 and under, and they all possess their own energies that contribute to what goes on in this house.
Wow.
And we had a lot of events that started in 2011 and progressively got worse over the years. And anybody who came and stayed with us always felt like there was something watching them in our house. But it's never been anything that's concerned me. So Sean actually came in to help me examine, did we have a shift in the polarity and the ley lines in our area after the flood in 2011 that's possibly causing some of this stuff? I couldn't put a finger on it personally, but when he came in and looked around and saw what was going on and explained to me that a large portion of what it is that's in the house is coming off of us, everything that I had been told by prior visitors started to make sense. So there's a watchful eye on the house that I've put there.
Gotcha.
And you're hoarding you were hoarding energy. You kept hoarding energy
I'm an energy hoarder. Yeah.
But what does it mean when street lights and appliances and lights and stuff blow out on you when you get mad? Because that's what happens to me.
Well, you're full of too much energy.
That event
you need to burn your energy.
When I went to Oregon, the last week I was in Oregon, that the guy at the hotel told me, he said, dude, he actually told me, he said, stand over there, because I kept blowing lights out over there. Seriously. Like the front desk guy, he was like, I really think you're blowing these lights out. I'm like, no, I'm not. He goes, dude, that's like the 6th one. He goes, stand over here, like,
any natural magician, whether they know it or not, if they put too much emotion into something, well, you'll make things happen around you, either good or bad. So the more energetic you are, and if you're holding on to it and not releasing it, not dealing with it, it will come out in other ways that can be, it gets expensive when you blow up appliances too often. You've got to get it under control, especially in a household our size. Holy moly. Things that have worked for me outside of, meditation and yoga and the tapping and anything that you can burn when you're feeling that energy building up inside of you. Any outlet that you can get a hold of, do it and use it, because it can get expensive.
That day I was telling you,
I don't go and visit people very often because of it.
That day I was telling you, Barbara, that when we were doing our session, and I said, the one thing that I can't stand in life is when things get tough, people cut and run. Right. Like if I was to go into a bar fight, the guy that's behind the jukebox, I'm done with that dude, because if I see him again, I'll kill him.
That's right.
That kind of thing. It's like that emotion. When I was talking about that, I had to replace the light bulb in here too.
You popped it while we were talking?
Yeah, that day. I had to replace the bulb in here.
Oh my gosh. You should just take Danielle with you. You'll be fine.
Yeah, so I think
the temporary way to keep yourself from destroying too many electronics, I learned this from my first spiritual teacher, who recently passed away on the 5th of February, by the way, is to keep yellow quartz crystal nearby. It keeps electricity even. It's an absolute must. Yellow quartz crystal. It doesn't even take a big piece, just a small piece. I keep it in front of my computer, so because I've actually destroyed the motherboard on one of my $2,000 computers, and that was not cheap to replace. So
seems to me we just saw some yellow citrine quartz crystals recently.
It makes a humongous difference in your repair bills.
I like that.
Yes.
And also switching to LED lights. It's so much easier than with the regular old bulbs. Oh, you'll blow those out in a heartbeat. But LEDs are much easier to deal with. I only have to replace those once every. They're supposed to last 25 years. They last me about 3. So it's still a good investment at the dollar store.
So Danielle, do you feel like that you're actually starting to heal? Do you feel like there's happiness or healing coming into your life now?
Yes, it is. And I'm not working it just from the angle with the EFT, but it has taken a big part of my routine, because it's really hard sometimes when something powerful comes up and you got to walk out the door. You got to get it under control quickly. And if you don't have your breathing methods down pat, you have another option. And that tapping is immediate, because it's not just a psychological thing. You're actually physically pushing vibration through your meridians. And when those vibrations sync up in that pattern, you're opening a clear tunnel between your conscious and your subconscious. So you can start working through those blocks.
Okay. So a lot of this is starting to make sense. I find that there are so many people in this field we call spiritual, metaphysical, paranormal, whatever, alternative UFO community. So many people that have some really hardcore stories in their life, but yet probably some of the most talented people that you'll ever meet when they actually start tapping into things. And I'm not just talking about metaphysical talents. I'm talking about art, poetry, things like that, creativity.
Creativity, yeah.
Yeah, so it's good that we have healers in this community, right? It's good because you have to think about maybe Sean and Danielle's story. Would they have made it without healers? Would they have made it without somebody that loved them? Not too long ago, my son had a friend of his, he jumped off a building in Little Rock, and he was 16 years old. 16 years old. Because he, his life wasn't right at home. I mean, I don't want to get too personal about it, but he had a rough life, and those kind of kids, when they get a girlfriend or something, and that girlfriend leaves them or cheats on them, once they actually experience real love and then it goes away from them, it's really hard to deal with. So I think we need to be even if you're just a listener, even if you're just listening, we need to be more aware of when people tell us things that they might actually be hurting, and say, hey, this matters. You matter. You're a special person, that kind of thing,
Yep, absolutely.
I found when people are hurting, the best way to approach them is to think, what would Mr. Rogers say to that person in that moment?
Yeah, Mr. Rogers was the best, right? Really?
He's the bomb. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially now that Tom Hanks has played him, that's even better.
And I mean, look at Tom Hanks, right? Like, he's got the coronavirus, but what is he telling everybody? He's like, I'm quarantining myself. I'm fine. You know, we're good. You're not even that. So he's not panicking either. But I want to go to this thing that you were talking about, Sean, too, during the break about Aleister Crowley, Magick, stuff like that. We talk about that on this show a lot. It's a heavy, heavy topic on this show because I believe that everybody has, it's their birthright to tap into their own abilities. But at the same time, I want them to be responsible with them too because of things that can happen. So where did you start with all this? Did you start with like books with Aleister Crowley, or how did you get into it?
Oh God. Okay. Now I got to remember this is hindsight's 2020. I didn't know where the books were coming from. All I knew was that my mother was bringing me books. My mother would go to England, and this started when I was about 13. She'd just disappear, leave my brother and with some money. I'd be hungry for 2 weeks because he wouldn't let me use the money to buy food. He would go do what he wanted with it. And she would come back and she would have a stack of books. And she'd go, here, I brought you these fantasy novels. And I'd look at these books and they were on some Irish folk magic, thaumaturgy, the Sacred Rose Tarot, the Star of the Morning. So we're talking tons. And I'd ask my mother, I said, what do you think these books are? And she would look at the book cover and cite off something that it wasn't, including Lord of the Rings or whatever. I'm like, are you serious? You can't read what's on. She says, I'm reading it right now, Sean. I was like, oh, okay. And so she didn't know what she was bringing me. And this was, of course, Airmid was doing it to her. When she was far enough away from the Bog Creature's effect, she could basically put a Jedi mind whammy on her and she'd bring me these books. So that's where it started for me. To this day, I only actually have one of those books left because all the others fell apart from all of my reading. I had to have this one rebound, which was the Sacred Rose Tarot book. And so I started reading there. And when I got to this one on thaumaturgy, the first line in there was that captured me immediately was, do what thou wilt was said to me, and as thou wilt, so mote it be, for love shall be the whole of the law, love under will. Now, throughout the Bible, including in Romans, they tell you that a man love another man, he has fulfilled the law. Thaumaturgy predates Christianity. It actually is somewhere around Zoroastrianism. So love is the main reason for doing any of these things.
It's interesting you say that, too, because Crowley wrote the Book of the Law, right? And he went to Egypt and with his wife or girlfriend Rose and invoked this entity Aiwass, who has like an Egyptian tone to it, that told him that all of these things too. I mean, there was some pretty hardcore stuff in that book, I'll be honest with you, but told him all of these things as well.
And thaumaturgy, it predates all of this because it is a truth to the way the universe works. That if the way that you deal with anything, especially with our abilities, what you do, what you create, you own. You have to keep it. And if you create negativity, it's going to come back to you. Now, the modern zeitgeist Wiccanism actually is based on Thelema, which was created by Aleister Crowley, which was based on Hermeticism, which was based on, you keep going back all the way to thaumaturgy. The original rule is 7 times 7. Even Christ invoked that in the Bible when they said, hey, Master, how many times should I forgive my neighbor? 7 times? Forgive him 7 times 7, which is the basically saying forever. You will forgive him eternally. So the rule of what comes back to you is 7 times 7. Whatever you create and send out into the world, if it's good, it will come back to you that many times over. But it will also come back to you if it's bad that many times over. It literally is infinitely worse. So if you keep pushing to get what you want, and what you want is not based on love as being the guiding principle, here it comes. It's like a freight train.
Yeah, here comes trouble, right? That makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, makes sense, right? Like people, people wonder why they got all these problems in their life and stuff. And here's the thing, though, and this is where I get tripped up on this. Barbara, doesn't a person have a right? like say in Sean's case or Danielle's case, to, you know, feel sorry for themselves. And I can't think of another word. Like, it hurts. You can't just not feel it, right? But how do they not obsess on it? That's where, this is what you're working with here, right?
Right. And I think you made a really good distinction there. Of course, part of processing it, I think, is feeling it, having whatever little pity party we all have, because I have them. Everybody does. Mm-hmm. But then when you find yourself spinning your wheels, or you can't get past it, or every time you feel it somewhere in your body, that's your clue. If you think about it and you feel it on your solar plexus and they clench up, now you've got something that you're not releasing. And so that's it's being more aware. So many people are disconnected from their body, right? I mean, from the chin down, the head is not really feeling what's going on.
I think what I've done, and I don't know if it's healthy, is when I start feeling that, I just go over and take it out on the heavy bag. Is that healthy?
I do think that is healthy, but it doesn't mean you get to disregard what sent you there in the first place.
Yeah.
Sometimes I used to, since I'm a second degree black belt in taijutsu, I used to take it out on my practice, but that unbalances you because it changes you from being balanced and centered to being forward. So you're always off balance against the person who knows how to sway like a reed in the wind. And that's that's one of the many things that I learned from this is if I give in to hate, then it reinforces the habit that hate, even against the heavy bag, is the answer. And hate can never drive out hate. Only love can do that.
Yeah, well, I don't really hit it for hate. I hit it to release the energy instead.
Right, but it's still it still means that it becomes the way that you deal with it is to manifest the energy that's brought up by the negativity rather than the centering force, which brings you into a peaceful state. You're basically running down the energy instead of removing the reason why the energy it keeps on having to be discharged. You're literally not removing the problem circuit. You're just.
Well, I got to tell you, the last session I had with you, Barbara, released. I mean. The next time I felt something like that we were talking about, I didn't, it wasn't there. It was like, I'm not dealing with that. Right. Like it wasn't there.
Oh my gosh. You know what? That is what makes me do what I do. Right. Because that is making a difference for somebody. So now you get to go on to whatever the next thing is, but you're not spinning cycles on that. You're not using your resources on it. And, I don't think it's necessarily bad to blow it out on that punching bag, just as long as you don't continually go to it time after time. So you have to avoid dealing with the issue. That might be a distinction.
It's a lot of stuff that builds up, to like a lot of energy in the body, a lot of tightness, tension, that kind of thing. There are people out there that can just exhale and release that and just go with it. But sometimes, if you're like me and you're sitting in the chair and you probably should be doing more exercise than you're doing, you got all this built up energy. It feels good to put a banana dent in something, I mean, there's a difference in that than people that go out and kick dogs and stuff. That those people are,
If you're kicking dogs, then this conversation's over. We're done.
I mean, like, there's people like that out there. I can't tell you what some of these neighbors and stuff out here have done to my cat. My cat's already spent his 9 lives.
They've not been raised in conditions to show them how to appropriately deal with these things.
Right.
Most Americans haven't.
That's true.
It's a sad state of affairs when it comes down to it, when you look at the mental health and spiritual health in this country. And when they get so down into their fear or as you're saying, the pity, they get to the point where they don't even know what they're upset about anymore. They just are upset and they're out of control and confused and scared. And you got to start baby stepping them out of it.
Right.
Right.
I cannot look. Good night. This is going by way too quick. Last break of the night. Barbara Charlton's with us from Metaphorical Archeology. Sean Gonzalez is here as well. Ian's Magick Oak and Danielle is called in. We'll be right back.
Charlton from Metaphorical Archeology. If you've ever had a traumatic paranormal experience, the effects of it may stay with you for years. Who do you talk to? You can't go to conventional help. What we do is we use emotional freedom techniques or tapping to actually neutralize the effects of that event. Maybe when you tell the story now, your heart races and your palms get sweaty. You don't even want to think about it because you don't know how to neutralize that. That's what EFT tapping does. It neutralizes those emotions. The circuit that was recorded on is gone. The energy flows freely and you're free of it. And that's what emotional freedom is all about. We offer this as a pro bono service, but this is something that I offer because no one, it seems, is helping people with these experiences. If you'd like to reach me, it's really easy. My cell phone is 214-995-3754. Please leave a message. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Or you can email me, barb.eft@gmail.com. And EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. Reach out to me. It's confidential. This works. You won't believe the results.
Hey, this check is wrong. I worked a holiday and 7 hours of overtime. Not getting paid correctly is a real pain. It could also hurt our boss if our company provides out-of-compliance checks. That's right, construction companies doing business with the government can get fined, or officials of the companies can go to jail if the checks aren't right. It's a law. The Davis-Bacon Act has 30 compliance issues for every check, but there is an easy way for construction companies to be in compliance. EMARS offers Compliant Client, a web-based system that finds and corrects all 30 of the possible out-of-compliance check issues. Users of Compliant Client report an 80% savings in time and money. Running a weekly payroll usually takes about 5 minutes. All 15,000 plus clients of EMARS have never had a legal compliance issue. Plus, they sleep better on check day. Contact EMARS at emarsinc.com or call 480-595-0466.
All right, man, this is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
Right, me old Chinas. I know it's an ad break, but before you lot shoot off and make yourself a cup of Rosie Lee or whatever else it is you're going to sling down your Gregory Peck, you need to listen to me babble. If, like me, you found your way to Light in the Void via a downloadable podcast, you might want to take a butcher's at the Fringe FM Wind and Kite. You won't Adam and Eve how many other shows there are or what they rabbit on about. Ancient history, conspiracy, the consciousness, the esoteric, the occult, metaphysics, parapolitical, ufology, technology and spirituality, to name but a few. They got featured hosts like Ryan Gable, Jeremy Scott, Alex Exum, Tim Doyle, Cortana and Gigi, Susanna Ross, the Reverend John Polk, Michael Deacon and J.D. Lewis. You might find yourself listening to the thoughts and theories of the author of The Fish you just finished reading. Or you could pick up the dog and bone, call in and tell everyone your own beliefs or experiences. So do me a favour, before you put on the Ansel or crack open a bottle of vino or roll a joint, go to the Fringe FM and see what you're missing.
From a cave in the depths of your mind, it's Lighting the Void with Joe Root.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you're interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Hey, I'm J.M. DeBoard, and when I want to talk about dreams, I look up my man Joe Root and his show, Lighting the Void.
we are back. I'm your host, Joe Roop. This is Lighting the Void live on the Fringe FM. If you're listening live, tune in after the show for the Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable. Don't forget, we're here for you Monday through Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific to midnight. And those of you that are calling in trying to get in, the reason why the phone isn't getting picked up is because we didn't get enough support to get that fancy phone system. So if you can donate, do so. And that way I don't have to keep hanging up on you. We had that really nice 4-line system, so would love to have that back so we can just have you all on here at once. But right now, Danielle's on the line with us, with Sean and Barbara. I got to tell you, man, these stories are intense. And, you know, when you think you've been through something hard, there's always somebody out there that's been through something that I would consider a little bit tougher. Because I cannot imagine growing up and it's just me having my sisters and brothers tell me this stuff, all the stuff that you're talking about, Sean. That's incredible. So I think you're a pretty strong dude to be able to keep going and doing what you're doing, man. And not only that, to come out and talk on the radio about it to people. So yeah, you're helping people. I don't know if Sean's back with us.
I hope so. Yeah. I hope I'm helping people. I really do. I wouldn't be saying this just so that people would go, oh, poor Sean, because I don't want you to pity me. I need very much to reach out to the people who are marginalized and like me, and the children who are afraid in the dark, who these things come after them. Because it's like I tell my youngest son, you know, you may go to bed a little scared and you're worried that there's something there, even though you have the gifts to drive it away, and you check under your bed for the boogeyman. But at night, when the boogeyman goes to bed, he checks under there for me.
Nice.
Gotcha. I like that.
All right. So
I like that too.
I want to ask you guys both, Sean, Danielle, Barbara even. We had Joshua P. Warren. I almost called him Joseph P. Warren. Joshua P. Warren that was on the show. Man. And he talked about the alien that he had. And we started the show off talking about Robert the Doll and magical objects, right? And I'm trying to, this is something new for me. I mean, I've studied astrology, magic, all this other stuff, but actually putting energy into objects other than just consecrating them and things like that, I'm not too proficient in. But can objects really be haunted?
Okay, that's a big question, because what you're dealing with is there's a difference between a focus, like a tool, that's a focus, and something that can be something that's haunted, which means that there's an attachment to it, something coming after it, and then something that's been enlivened, which is another thing altogether.
Yep.
Like a doll that's been given a life of its own. My son has one, and that one actually is a bit of a heartbreaking story, but it's also a beautiful one. But like Robert the Doll, there's nothing negative attached to it at all. I've actually sensed it twice, and it has a very sad spirit to it because it misses the original owner. The same thing for Annabelle. Annabelle is not negative. She doesn't have anything sad to her, but there are two spirits I sensed on the. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention the show that it was on.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Sure.
On Ghost Adventures.
Okay.
Zach Bagans, the goof, you know, they're saying, don't touch it. It's like touching something radioactive. No, it's not. And Annabelle isn't dangerous. But the things that are following it want her to stay in there and stay quiet. There's no such thing as a dangerous Raggedy Ann doll. Every last one of them is made with a candy heart and love. So they all are made with that idea in mind.
I got you. Because I'm just curious, because I don't know how much I can say about this, but I got this skull here that I'm pretty sure whistled at me while I was on the air the other night.
I told you mine did.
I heard you say something about that.
The audience heard it too.
I think that's
like,
awesome.
What was that?
I told you mine whistled, Danielle.
Yeah, and I heard him say something about that. I think I was listening to last night's show or the night before. You know, those crystal skulls are fascinating to me. I don't know why, but the ones that you guys possess have been set in the presence of some of the more ancient skulls, and they usually do ceremonies with them, so they're imbued with, you know, some sort of talking power coming from those older skulls. Exactly how it works, I haven't gotten that all figured out yet, but I have a stack of books on the way because something pulled me that direction this year. So I'm going to be doing a lot more studying on that because both of my skulls talk to me. But it's
Danielle,
only the ones that I've received. Yeah.
Tell them what happened the morning that I asked you about the skull.
Oh gosh. So the skull thing started a year ago. I just have these things drop in my lap, either at no cost or to really low cost that you wouldn't expect for such precious items. And the skulls were one of them. And I had purchased one from Einstein Skulls. And almost a year to the day, this past, February, I came across another one from Einstein Skulls that really coincided with the one I'd purchased the year before. And in between that time, I had collected quite a few of them, and 2 of those skulls came from crystalskulls.com, which is another reputable place to look into those kind of things if they interest you. And those 2 came with names, and she cut me a deal because I inquired about one, and she cut me a deal on the second one because they were brothers. And they never spoke to me, not a single word, the entire time I had them in the house, which was almost 9 months. And the morning that my new skull was supposed to arrive, I woke up at like 1 a.m. and sat up, and all I could hear was one say Joe's name and the other one said Barbara's name. And I was like, are you flipping kidding me? I've said nothing the whole time you've been here. But okay, because it's not the first time I've had things like that happen, just never with crystal skulls before. So the only thing I managed to accomplish that day on a sleep-deprived night was to get those skulls taken care of and packed up and shipped out. And, it was just such a strange day because Fortuna didn't actually show up like she was supposed to have. And I had to go down and retrieve her from the post office the next morning only to find out that the postman had taken it back out, so I was going to have to sit around all day and wait for it. But, yeah, they are very interesting tools.
Mine's sitting here on top of this big effects rack, just looking at me. Sometimes I have staring contests.
See, mine is sitting here too, Joe. And I've never wanted a skull ever. And so that Monday morning, I said to Danielle, could you kind of keep an eye open for a skull? I don't even know why. It just kind of feels like I need one. And Wilson showed up in the mail that afternoon. She had already shipped it out.
Yeah, I was like, hold that thought.
So the other day, I go out to have a cigarette outside because I pulled the telescope out and I'm like, where should I point this telescope? Because every now and then the sky's clear. I want to look at it. It's nice outside. And I'm pointing this thing and I'm thinking, as soon as I scanned it over like to the east, went up northeast and I heard like that. And I'm like, what the hell was that?
Yes.
Like, I was like, okay. So I started moving it around again and I went right back that one spot again and it went like that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this. And I saw 2 shooting stars in that same spot.
Oh, wow.
You come back in here and look at the skull. It ain't doing nothing though. Creepy. Not doing nothing. Just sitting here. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. Do the stuff move around on y'all too? Like you'll wake up and something's I know I put that there. Now it's over here. I don't know.
No, mine just whistled very clearly when no one was in the house. And that was it. I was like, okay, that's all it said to me. One whistle so far.
Yeah. Well,
we have things move around this house a lot, but sometimes it has something to do with one of the 5 kids. It's hard to say sometimes.
And 12 cats and dogs.
Yeah, my dad comes on the property out here sometimes, and he's like, yeah, you got haints out here, boy. That's what he calls them. I've forgiven him already for a lot of things. Right?
Catamounts.
Yeah, he said you got haints. I'm like, what is a haint? He's like, spooks, that kind of stuff. So everybody that comes out here, like, sees stuff that I don't see. It's really weird. I don't know.
What does your dad think of all this, Joe? I've never really heard you say that.
He's big time Christian, so we don't get into it too much. But he doesn't. sometimes something will intrigue him, and then he'll want to. It's really weird because we're talking about a man that never has said I'm sorry, or maybe you're right in his entire life.
Wow.
Never.
Wow.
So yeah, it's hard to talk to him about certain things. So you just kind of play to the ego and then, intrigue him, like ask him a question, but you're really trying to make a statement, and then he'll answer it. Because if you start combating the guy, it's going to be tough, big time,
Don't even go there.
No. I just don't go there anymore because he's getting older. I don't want him to stress out, and he's a Pisces too, so he gets really hurt about things, But anyways, I hate my father. I don't want to talk about that stuff. Like that I don't hate my father. I'm just joking, but it's like my dad rescued me when I was a kid, man. I mean, he's been there for me my whole life. And yeah, I had a pretty rough upbringing, but like we were talking about earlier, I went back and, when I was a teenager, and I looked him dead in his eye and I said, you're not going to do that to me anymore. You're just not, and that's kind of scary to do as a teenager, even because they're still big.
Yeah.
They're a lot bigger than you still,
Mm-hmm.
But he knew I was serious this time. He's
did he respect that?
Yeah. Well, he's still kind of mouthed. He's like, well, I'm your dad and I'll do this and that. And I'm like, yeah, you can say all that stuff. But when it happens, I'm telling you, you may come this way, but when you leave, I promise you, you're going to be messed up for life. I'm not putting up with this anymore, So, and he kind of respected that. He understood what I was saying, and we had never had any problems since. So, but he was raised by my grandfather, Ted, who was, he was a Golden Gloves boxer, an extremely angry Indian guy. There's people that around even, Saline County that still talk about how he used to slap people and knock them across the ditch and stuff like that. Cause everybody was afraid of him, So my father grew up really rough. In his eyes, he took it super easy on me,
Right.
So,
yeah.
And
that's pretty typical generation to generation.
Yeah.
The younger generation sees what's wrong with what the parents did and they try to fix it.
Yeah, I don't blame them for it. I can't, but
No.
My son, I don't think I've ever laid my hands on him, not on purpose, I still feel bad about zipping. I still feel bad about this has nothing to do with the paranormal, but I was thinking the other day when he was a kid and I took him to Halloween and he had this little frog suit on, You ever do? And when you have your first kid, you make mistakes. And I zipped a zipper up too quick and it caught his little skin. And he just kind of shook real quick and started crying. And I was like, God, I still feel bad about that to this day.
You mentioned your father. My dad, before the Bog Creature affected him, his idea of a normal punishment would have been a smack, or his idea was to toughen me up would be he wanted me to learn how to swim. He threw me at the age of 3 into the 20-foot diving pool at the YMCA.
Yeah. Swim or sink, right?
Yeah. And left me there laughing. But after the Bog Creature affected him, that was when things went super dark. My brother changed around some of the name tags on the Christmas presents that year in 1977. So I was 6 years old.
Ooh,
and so I opened up a present that said my name on it, but it was from my sister. And I was so ashamed. I ran to my room. My dad followed me, and he came down and he sat on the side of the bed as I lay there crying in distress because I was so ashamed that I'd messed up everybody's Christmas. And he asked me, "Are you sleeping?" And I shook my head no, and I was about to turn and put my arms around him and ask him for forgiveness and say, "I'm sorry." And he grabbed me by the back of my pajamas and then threw me across the room into a desk, broke my little toe.
My God.
And then proceeded to wail on me with
we've worked
closed
on
fist.
this.
Otherwise, I would be a blubbering mess right now. Otherwise, and he worked me over from stem to stern. I lost control of my bodily functions, and he concussed me. And this was Christmas, my sixth Christmas.
Your father did that to you, or your
brave you guys are?
My grandfather.
Your grandfather, yeah.
Sorry, my father.
Your father.
My grandfather came running in to stop him, and they actually held him back. He would have gone after my father and torn him to pieces after that if he could have. But there was 3 people in the way, and they made me go and apologize to him for that.
That's awful,
making him have to beat me. And
this is why I say how brave you are when you face this stuff, because this not showing emotion is one thing, but it's harder to show the emotion and push through it.
And we had to work on this one twice because it was so painful, because if my grandfather resisted the effects that this thing had on him, why couldn't they? It was betrayal. Why couldn't they be good people? And I defied the negative influence because I would not be like them. I would not. No. I will not be that way. I even learned I went to a martial arts to learn how to protect myself. And years later, when my wife wanted to go and meet my father, and I stood across the table from him, and she was talking, they were laughing. And my father said, "Well, how are you today?" I said, "Never going to forget anything you've ever done, Dad. Never, ever going to forget, because you may be okay with things that you did and you've excused yourself. But I'm going to tell you what my sensei told me. I can listen to your reasoning and leave you in my past, or I can kill you. And then everything that you've done becomes a part of me.
Like Sling
and then I absorb your evil and go with it forever. But I'm not
your truth.
But I'm not going to do that, because I have no desire to be you. And I'm going to raise my sons the way that I was taught how to raise my sons, by people who are better than you.
Yeah,
and I'm going to live my life in love.
Blade, though, right? There's some truth to that. When the guy goes into the house and he meets his father, who's in this I'm talking about crap house of environment, crazy, all messed up, paranoid, and it's a whole testament of facing your past. Like, I'm not saying everybody should run out and, go to all the hurt in their past and face it. But I mean, if it's something, honestly, that's deep enough and buried hard enough and it's not going away, I think, and maybe it's because I'm an Aries, but I think you should go to that person, look them in the eye and say, "This is what you did to me. And because of that, I'm not going to allow this in my life anymore," or anything like that, or whatever you want to say. It just goes away after that for some reason. For me, it does,
Well, I couldn't get rid of it because of the negativity that was, because it's the Bog thing was owning him. And still to some degree, the effects, I could still see are on him. They sit on his shoulders, my brother's shoulders, my mother's shoulders. Not so much my sister's, but I'm not welcome in her life for reasons of weirdness. And most of the rest of my family went back to normal too, because this thing faded away. And the only reason that this finally faded away, because it finally confronted me one last time when I was 23, and it was alone in Idaho. I just got to go help my friend Joel, because he had he'd just been discharged from the military, and he wasn't earning enough money. And so I went up there and got a job with him. We shared a room, and I was able to make sure he had food and a place to live and could pay his car payment. And unfortunately, everything unraveled really fast, because this thing knew that it didn't have to deal with my family anymore, dropped all of them, and came after me. And I mean, this was 93, and I was there when they were trying to create a race war. The guy who shot the marshal and white supremacists, there was a big standoff, and everybody who was anybody suddenly flooded into the state that was a white supremacist, and that was a big problem.
Yeah.
I'm white, my last name's Gonzalez, and my best friend's black. And they didn't take kindly to the fact that where we were working, I didn't let them kill my friend Joel. There were 4 good old boys on the ground, and me standing there with a crowbar, when I realized I better get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah, right.
But they came after me later on by where I was living homeless, and chased me down, and I managed to get away. But this thing found me later that night, the Bog Creature, and we had our final confrontation right there.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I'm not going to say where.
Yeah, but we could probably pick back up on that too next time we have a session here. But what I really want to do, because we only got just a few minutes left here, is let Barbara, if you can, tell people what you offer, how to get in touch with you, and really let them know that about the paranormal deal and all that stuff? Because I'd rather you say it. You have such a sweeter voice than me.
Oh, okay. Charmer. So what I do offer is EFT tapping sessions. If you've had some kind of paranormal encounter, cryptid encounter, and you still wake up maybe with nightmares, or you tell the story and you're still feeling your heart race, that is a good time to call me. I offer those sessions pro bono. And I have a full-time practice with people suffering from narcissistic abuse and, all the other things that everybody suffers with. But Lighting the Void has been very good to me, and I really enjoy the audience here. So that's available to you. Cell, text 214-995-3754. Facebook, Metaphorical Archeology, LLC. And barb.eft@gmail.com.
Thank you for that. And Sean, if you can, tell everybody how they can find your YouTube channel, and real quick, because we got less than 2 minutes here, what you guys talk about on that channel.
Oh, well, just go to Ian's Magick. That's with a CK Oak for YouTube, or you can find us through Facebook at Magick Oak Paranormal Elimination and Investigation. What we talk about on the channel is not only using your abilities, learning how to harness your gifts, but also some of the things that we've encountered, how to see auras, talk to your guides, all those things. And I also, for free, if you need me, I can either teach you how to use your abilities, or I can come in, especially if you're dealing with the boogeyman under the bed. And I can make sure that boogeyman doesn't stay under there any longer. No child should stay up late at night wondering what is that thing that's yanking on their toes.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And Danielle, thank you for calling in, and all of you guys in the chat room, thank you so much. We do have to get out of here because the week is over. Now, look, if you're looking forward to next week, we got some really good guests coming on. Brent Thomas is going to come on. Chris Knowles is going to be on the show. That's a big one that we've been trying to get done. So I really want to thank Pacho, the executive producer of the show, but I also want to thank everyone else that has helped so much. Barbara, Charlton, number one. Amanda, well, all of you guys are number ones. Amanda, number one. Dennis, I'm standing up because I'm talking to a mic because of Dennis too. So I consider all of you guys like co-producers of the show. Eric Markham, Jeremy Scott, and all of you lovely people in the Discord chat, in the Fringe FM Discord. We'll see you guys next week for more Lighting the Void. Stay tuned for the Secret Teachings. Good night.
On this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates,
I'm still here.
or staff. Listener discretion is advised.